Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Autogefühl, today with me, AJ. First things first, Happy New Year, welcome to 2018. What did you guys do over the holidays? Did you do something automotive related? Did you go on a road trip? I know that's what I did. We have a lot of cool things to do this year. A lot of new cars to test, a lot of nice places to go, and a lot of fun to have. So make sure you stick around, hit that subscribe button. Let's kick things off this year at the Detroit Auto Show. Michel and I are here this week at the NAIAS, and we have a lot of things to cover, a lot of new cars to check out, a lot of releases, a lot of premieres, so don't go anywhere. I'm here with Carl. He's the chief engineer of the special edition, very beautiful looking Mustang Bullitt. So Carl, can you tell us what's special about this car? How is it different than the standard 2019 Mustang?
So the big difference you have from appearance, you can see it's been debadged, and of course it's in Highland green. And if you look through what we've done, the grille itself has been extended, and it's painted black, upper and lower. If we go around to the side, you can see that chrome accent we did in the grille is also accentuated in the torque thrust wheel. We've added a machine finish to it. And then we take the chrome along the door opening, so we call it DLO. So it's just a very understated, cool appearance to make the body lines of the car come out. Underneath the hood, what we've done is we've taken the time to improve both the performance and the sound of the car. What we're looking to do is get the most horsepower we could out of the 5-liter naturally aspirated. So we took the intake manifold off the GT350, the throttle body, which is an 87 millimeter throttle body, and an open air inlet. What that does is it gives us lower induction losses and better flow into the chambers for more horsepower. We know we're going to have at least 475 horsepower versus the base car, which is 460. We've also got a throatier sound coming off that new intake manifold. Just gives us a better order content, and we've taken that through with a unique exhaust system that's got nitro plate tips, that's black, very much what we do on the Raptor, and we've tuned that uniquely for the most throaty sound we can get out of the motor itself. So it gives you that feel from the acceleration and the sound that goes with like the chase scene, right? Because what people love about the Bullitt chase scene is the car itself is like an actor. It speaks to you through the exhaust. So we really wanted that emotion, that experience to come through as you're driving this car. And so it's a customization of a car for a special edition, from the appearance, the powertrain, and the sound. And we took the extra time to actually do what we're shooting right now, which is kind of a green accent stitch. And you can see we've got a unique IP finish panel, Bullitt logos, and just like the car parked next to it, we've done a cue ball shifter to give you that sensory feel like you're
a movie star, you're Steve McQueen.
You're Steve McQueen as you drive to work. As always, for us, if we can make a special edition and customize it, we can make it more approachable for our customers as far as something they can buy as a daily driver, and just have a smile on your face as you come and leave work.
That sounds fantastic. So how many of these bad boys are you guys going to make and sell?
Yeah, we haven't really locked into that. We've got capabilities to hit a couple different volumes. I think the only thing unique is really the engine. So we haven't come to a conclusion on that one yet.
And before I let you go, maybe a few words about the classic car, the one that started it all. something about this that perhaps is your favorite thing that you have tried to capture in the new car. I mean, if there's some characteristic for you that defines the original Bullitt car, and how did you, capture that in the new car?
Yeah, there's really three main things that give the essence of the car. One's the appearance, that understated cool look. So we spent a lot of time to remaster the paint and just come to an approach of just small accents and chrome. The other two big things are, of course, performance enhancements. When Steve McQueen sent this off to do for the movie, he got it juiced for chassis and juiced for engine, and we did the same, right? We're built off a performance pack for what we did on this edition, which gives us the best chassis capability we have. And again, the engine's going to be the most horsepower we have on the 5-liter lineup. So we wanted to really deliver that. We couldn't put straight pipes on it like Steve did, but we were able to get the most out of it and still be legal. Yep.
Okay. Well, that's a very fantastic car. I think it really does capture the essence of the original Bullitt car over here. Pretty exciting, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
The front of the i8 Roadster is very similar to the regular i8. Has a very futuristic, robotic design to it. Of course, you also get the optional BMW laser light that we have over here. Nice daylight running lights, daytime running lights flanking the bottom of the headlight cluster. Lots of angles and layers and shapes over here. Like for example, here where the copper color and the black color change over here, and then some more scoops and curves down here. A semi-blocked front grille, a big BMW badge in the front, and of course the front hood. I think this is one of the most iconic design elements of the BMW i8, with its numerous scoops and this triangular badge-like gloss black. I think it looks really cool. The front of the BMW i8 Roadster is still very similar to the standard i8 up till about here. For example, we have the 20-inch BMW wheels. You have different options and colors for this as well. And of course, the all-essential electric charging socket over here in the front. And if you look over here, you'll see that the BMW i-connected charging station now lets you charge the i8 to full 100% in just 3 hours. I think this is a great step forward in making electric cars much more user-friendly. Black outside rear view mirror, a long door, and of course the Roadster hardtop. And I just love doing this. It's so cool. I feel like a superstar every time I open this door. And when you open this, you can see the carbon fiber shell, the tub down here as well. Really cool. We'll sit inside in a minute, but let's continue down the side. You have the Roadster badge, which in case the roof is up, nobody should have any doubt as to what this car is. Lots of aerodynamic channels, like for example over here to channel air around the car to make it more streamlined and aerodynamic. Down here we have the 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine, which makes 228 horsepower. Of course, this is coupled with an electric motor, which makes 141 kilowatts. So overall, with that together, the car can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 4.4 seconds. Of course, you see the eDrive badge, the i8, and there are no exhaust tips on this side. All right, let's get inside. Oh man, I never get tired of doing that. Like I mentioned, the carbon fiber shell, it is very low. You have to be careful about the roofline as well. Getting in is an art in itself. You have to be a little bit of a contortionist, but it's fairly easy to get the door back down. This handle is designed really well and it's in a good position. Seating position is very nice. Of course, this is only a 2-seater. There's no seats in the back, so you can put the seats all the way back. Like right now, I have the seat all the way in the furthest back position, and it's still there's plenty of clearance in the back, so the seat is not rubbing against the bulkhead back there. The steering wheel is very nice and chunky, has this design line in the middle running through it. It's pretty cool. It adds that extra modern, futuristic touch to it. Paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. The BMW standard gear lever over here. Start-stop button. Your hotkey buttons for the iDrive infotainment system. Controls for your climate control. Electronic parking brake. The command unit over here. A little bit of storage spaces. A USB charger over here. And this is the switch to raise the roof. Unfortunately, I can't do that right now in this test. Vehicle over here. So seat heating buttons over there. Cup holder. And even more storage spaces over here. 12-volt power socket. And yet another bottle holder over here. And if you divert your attention to the back, there's a giant cubby hole back here which you can easily fit a small handbag, a backpack, a purse. So, usually two-door Roadsters are very much lacking in terms of interior cubby holes and spaces to keep your things. Yes, this is not that great, but has a glove box which is not that great, but at least it has one. And like I said, all of these storage spaces over here and the one in the back, it is actually quite easy to put away things on the inside. The front of the Hyundai Veloster has a very familiar face. It does look very Hyundai i30-like, what we have back in Europe, with these very straight, narrow headlights with LED headlamps, a cosmetic air intake design element over here, and a very snouty, narrow front grille. I mean, when I say narrow, it becomes narrower, but the entire grille is very large. It's very singular. There's a very large grille area. Very interesting texture and pattern through here. And the center part of the grille is blocked, but you have intakes on the top and the bottom. The logo is two-dimensional now because this also houses the radar sensor. The new Veloster also has a whole host of upgraded driver assistance systems and safety features as well. Towards the bottom, we have a black diffuser running all around the front of the car. The side profile of the Hyundai Veloster is really unique. It kind of blends both the characteristics of a hatchback and a coupe. Up front, well, we start off with the 18-inch wheels. They're pretty cool. They kind of remind me of a Ninja Star because they have these sharp edges over here. The brakes have also been slightly upgraded for at least the N Performance version, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But as we go further down the side, there aren't too many extravagant design lines on the Veloster. We have one swooping curve that doubles back and fades away towards the bottom of the car. This curve kind of reminds me of the H in the Hyundai logo. Don't you guys think so, the way it curves down? The door itself is very smooth, just a little bit of a curve over here, but apart from that, not many creases or lines to speak of. A shiny metal flake finished rear view mirror cap. As we go further down the side, well, we see the roof line climbs and it stays pretty level up till about here, and then it dives a little bit, not too much. It is a coupe, but it's still a hatchback, so this is a complete hatch. I'll show you that in a minute. On the top, you can also see the very large panoramic sunroof. So this is a three-door plus hatch. That's an interesting feature of the Hyundai Veloster. I'll show you guys that in a minute. The driver's side, there's only one door. It's a longer door, whereas on the passenger side, we have a front door, which is shorter than the driver's side door, and we have a third door over here. And like I said, there's only one door on that side, so to get out of the other side on the left-hand side, you can't. You all have to enter and exit from this side itself. So let's take a look around the back of the car. Here at the back, the Veloster has a small spoiler on the top. The rear window is fairly small, to be honest. We'll see how much that affects the visibility once we hop inside. The the tail lamps have a nice, interesting design. They have this sideways sleeping T sort of design, perhaps for the Veloster, the T, I don't know. It looks kind of nice. Strong haunches on this side of the bumper. A lot of interesting creases and curves as we go towards the center. Hyundai and the Veloster logo. Very neatly executed. This is the 1.6T. This is a 1.6 liter 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. I'll show you guys the different engine options and open the hood in a minute, so we'll skip that for now. And as we go further down, we have the lower part of the bumper with a diffuser and two centrally mounted exhaust tips. And these are real exhaust tips. They look really cool. I wonder how they sound. There's a button over here to release the hatch. It opens. You have a pretty deep boot. It's not that bad. There's a large lip. And the loading area, well, you can move this parcel shelf out of the way, of course. But it's a bit tight. Of course, it's still a coupe hatchback, so it's not really going to be great. But it's pretty good, nevertheless. And well, yeah, that's about it. This is what I was talking about. On the driver's side, you have one long door and no door for the passenger side. So to get inside from this side of the car, you're going to have to tumble the front seat. Like I said, this is a very large door. Looks pretty cool. I like two-door coupes. The materials up here are hard plastic, unfortunately. But at least down here, you have much more plush materials for your arms and your elbow. A large door handle over here and the release latch. Some door pockets down here as well. Controls for your windows, etc. In this turbo model, of course, you have different versions of seats and such. We have sport seats. They're adjustable manually down here to lift the seat up and down. You have some lumbar support, automatic lumbar support buttons over here to recline the seat, and of course to tumble it with one easy switch to get people in the back. We'll check that out in a minute, but for now let's sit inside. It's making a really annoying bonging sound, if you guys can hear. Yeah, I know the door is open, I just opened it myself. You don't have to tell me that all the time. But getting inside is pretty easy. It is a bit low and the roofline is a bit low, but thanks to this very large opening, getting inside is not that hard, it's not that cumbersome. Finding a comfortable seating position is also very easy. The steering wheel can be adjusted only for rake. You cannot adjust it for reach. That's interesting. I wish they had done something about that. And we have hard materials on the top of the dashboard, over here and over here. So I really wish they would do something about that as well to maybe improve some of the materials. The entire body, everywhere, is only just hard plastic. But anyway, let's get inside. Let's check out all of the systems. Here in the cockpit, well, the steering wheel, first of all, has a nice grip to it. It's fairly thin. It's not very chunky, but it's got a nice contour to which really, lets you put your thumb across over here and get a nice grip. You have paddle shifters for the 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission that you get with this turbo. Buttons for your cruise control, adaptive cruise control, distance for the front car. Settings over here, volume control, telephone control, mode, voice commands. There's a nice red stripe in the middle of the bottom of the steering wheel, which is interesting because this kind of reminds me of that. They usually have a sports car sometimes have that a stripe on the top dead center, so that you can. It's supposed to help you in a race, as if you're a race car driver, but here it's on the bottom. Nevertheless, you have some other assistant controls for your lane keeping, heads-up display, and things like that. And we have two analog clocks for the tachometer and the speedometer, and a screen in the middle. Of course, right now the engine is off, so we don't have the key with us to turn that on, unfortunately. But if you look over here, we have a piece of plexiglass, which gives you the heads-up display. I usually don't like these kinds of heads-up displays. From my experience driving cars with heads-up display, I usually like the ones which do project them directly onto the windshield itself. So overall, I think they've done some things to cut the cost in terms of quality of build materials inside and this heads-up display. But the tagline for the Hyundai Veloster is that it's affordable performance. So they've given you a good drivetrain, and they have really developed this car really well. I'll talk about that in a minute. And the engine and drivetrain handling is fantastic, and all of these creature comforts, which I guess people are willing to sacrifice on, they have saved cost over there. We have a touchscreen infotainment system over here, which has your usual vehicle navigation, phone projection with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is always a plus point. It seems to be pretty useful. It's not that bad. It's a little bit slow to react to your touch, but on the whole, I would say it's not too bad. SD card slots over here, and hazard lights, hotkey buttons for your infotainment system, knobs and buttons, which are nice. I think this design is something refreshing, something we don't usually see in European cars. Engine start-stop button, climate control, again with knobs and buttons. This is, I think, really well executed. The air conditioning vents, 12-volt power socket, USB charger, auxiliary, another USB charger, inductive phone charging over here, your 7-speed dual clutch transmission with drive mode selectors, which is also something that has been improved for this current generation of the Veloster. Seat heaters on either side, and some cup holders, a central armrest. Let's give it the shake test. Well, yeah, that cost cutting is, you can see that a little bit. I mean, this entire piece is kind of wobbling a little bit. But again, you know, if you get the good performance, I think, and you get a good price, I would also be okay with buying a car with hard plastics, because if it drives well, I don't really care. I'm not going to be sitting around and feeling the car up all the time. And lots of storage spaces, like I said here. A pretty decent glove box. A nice, interesting matte black inlay with a checkered flag. A nice little detailed touch. And finally, up top over here, we have a sunroof, which unfortunately I cannot open. But this is nice because it's completely automatic. It's not a sliding thing with your hand. I mean, the G-Class that we saw recently also has a sliding, manually sliding roof liner, sunroof liner. So, and sunglasses holder over there. Now, we know that it's easier to get into a car when you have an actual door, but what's important is, what if you don't want to use the door on that side, or you're forced to get in from this side? Let's see how well it is, how easy it is to do that in the Veloster. When you tumble the seat forward, the seat does not slide forward on its own, it doesn't detach, and that bonging sound is really annoying. So, let me see if I can, ow, it's pretty tight, I will be honest. My foot is stuck in the seat belt, and let's see. There we go. This was my driving position. It is snug back here, I will be honest. The window is also incredibly small, so it does feel really claustrophobic in here. I can imagine with the sunroof things will be a little bit better, but I wouldn't really count on it too much. That sloping roofline and small window, rear window, also kind of detracts from helping this car feel spacious on the inside and the back seat. It's kind of dark and cramped in here. I don't really have too much space to put my feet under the seat. It's really pushing down on my feet. Of course, the seat is in the lowest position, which I think it would be since it's a sporty car. The seat would always be pretty low. Knee room is acceptable. It's adequate. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, and this is set to my driving position. So with that in mind, it's not that bad. The seat itself is actually comfortable. That is pretty good. My knees are a little bit up high, so it kind of, I'm sure that it'll get a little bit painful after a while because there's no support. Headroom is at a premium, unfortunately. I have about that much of headroom. So Thomas, he probably wouldn't fit in here. And this is a strict 2+2. Although there is no transmission tunnel, there is also no center seat. It has these cup holders and this parcel tray instead. There is no armrest either, but you can tumble these seats over here, like such. It doesn't really fold completely flat, and neither is it flush with the trunk. There's a little bit of a lip, but again, I think for what this car is supposed to do, it's a sporty hatchback. It's a hot hatch on a budget with the performance and the drivetrain to back it up, but not really all these creature comforts. And because of these compromises, it's able to offer you a better price. So yeah, I don't mind this at all. Here we have a gray color. This also has a different engine. So basically the turbo and the base variant, well, the base quote-unquote variant, look very similar on the outside, but if you look behind me, that's the N Performance Edition. It looks a lot more different, has a lot more special features in terms of performance. We'll come to that in a minute, but just take a quick look at this. And also because this is the base variant, for example, you'll notice that this has a three-dimensional logo, which also means this does not have a lot of the driver assistance systems, such as adaptive cruise control, and as well as the headlights are also a little bit different. While you're doing that, I'm gonna open the hood and let's talk about the engines. Let's see if I can figure out how to open this. There we go. All right, so this is the base engine. This is a 2-liter, 4-cylinder, naturally aspirated engine, which makes 147 horsepower. This engine you can get either with a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual clutch, as with the turbo that we just saw. This is obviously transversely mounted, hence it's only a front-wheel drive car. Now, the N Performance Edition that we saw on the side behind me has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, which makes 275 horsepower over here. This is the big daddy, the performance edition of the Hyundai Veloster. This has been developed by Mr. Albert Biermann from BMW M Performance on the Nürburgring. This car also gets upgraded brakes. If you come down here and check it out, bigger performance brake calipers. It has adaptive suspension, so it sits lower and it can be stiffened if required. This has some more special features on the body, like if we go down here, you see that red stripe. This very beautiful baby blue color and a carbon fiber effect extra rear spoiler. And, oh yeah, by the way, this is the N badge. Now, Hyundai is also going to be coming out with a lot of different N versions. While we're at it, down here, this has 2 very large exhaust pipes on either side, but real exhaust as well. I really like that. This is the first truly performance-oriented Hyundai that you can get in the US. Speaking of purity and true driving pleasure, this comes only with a 6-speed manual, or at least that's what they've decided for now. Once it officially goes on sale, they might change this and offer the dual clutch as well. We're not sure. Full fabric performance seats, which is what we always prefer here in Autogefühl. Very nice with side bolstering, really sporty. Full black interior decor as well. The last but not least, the engine from the first car that we saw over there, the orange turbo, is a 1.6 4-cylinder turbo, which makes 201 horsepower, and that car can also be had with the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. new Avalon takes a lot of design influences from Lexus and the previous or the current generation Camry. A lot of interesting shapes and contours happening over here. Now this is the entry-level version, and this gets LED lights, but as you go higher in the trims, you get some more advanced LED, adaptive LEDs and dynamic indicator lights and such in the other car. We'll show you that later on. There's some side vents which are functional, that's what they say over here, which helps make the car a lot more aerodynamic. As it is always with these upgrades and next generation cars, the new Avalon is now wider and longer than before. This is certainly a large car. I mean, it looks well proportioned, but it is very long. Standing here, I can't even see the rear of the car. But at least the wheels are really nice. These are 19-inch wheels. It's got a shiny outside and glossy black on the inside of the spokes. The body on the side is very sleek. Not many sharp design lines. There's very subtle curvature over here. Some interesting detailing down here, which is apparently new for this generation of the Avalon, which was not there earlier. So they're trying to spice things up a little bit. A blacked out rear view mirror for this trim level. Chrome along the edges of the windows. A very long, straight roof line. Not really much of a coupe, more sedan-like. But down here, I think it has a really nice fastback type design, you know, and I think it's executed really well. You still have a lot of headroom because the roof is still pretty high at this level, but it does taper off as you go further back, adding that extra sporty feel. As we go towards the rear of the car, you will notice that there's also a spoiler over here, glossy and black. Kind of reminds me of the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio because it's got that glossy back feel to it. I think the rear of this car is my favorite. I know looks are subjective, but I see little bits of the Toyota Prius towards this side. If you look at it from this kind of an angle, the sloping, sculpted design of the rear view, the rear lights, kind of makes it look like a Prius. But overall, it's very Toyota, very Japanese. It has its own taste. Yes, it's not really that easy to manufacture these things, that you're losing a lot of space in the trunk with all these cutouts, but it just looks really nice. I also really like the tail lamp just extending all across the back of the boot lid. Speaking of the boot lid, there's a little button here between the O and N. Avalon. I don't like this though. I wish they just had a small badge somewhere on the side, but the boot is really large. This is a full-size sedan. Really cavernous. Goes really far back. You have tabs on the top to pull and lower the seats on either side. Lots of space to tie down your bags and groceries and things like that. A toolkit, and I see a spare wheel below this. Let me try to lift it. There we go. It's a space saver without alloy wheels, but that's fine. We have 3 different trim levels here at this stall. On the right-hand side, the blue one that we were just walking around is the XSE. You can see the quad tailpipes in the bottom. Looks really nice. Over here you have the Touring, which also has these quad tailpipes. That's because this is the 3.5-liter V6. But over here on the left-hand side, we have the Limited and trim in the hybrid engine, and hence there are no tailpipes down here. Let's take a look under the hood. Now this is the new V6 that we talked about earlier. We don't know the engine output yet, but this is a transversely mounted engine layout. It's offset towards the left-hand side, as you can see. Hence, this is also a front wheel only. This is mated to a 8-speed automatic transmission. But apart from the new V6, I think this is the most important engine for the Avalon. This is the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder hybrid engine. This engine is mated to a continuously variable transmission, the CVT. Again, as you can see, this is transversely mounted and it's offset towards the left-hand side. Hence, this is also a front-wheel drive layout. Let's take a look inside the car. Fairly large door, fairly low as well. Because of this new platform, the car is lower than before. Materials up here are pretty good. They're a little bit soft, but not so much. You have some perforated Alcantara type material over here. Plastics down here are hard. An interesting textured element on the top over here. So quite a lot of different design elements going on. Inside, I think it's a very clean design, but it's nothing too extravagant, I would say. The dashboard is neatly laid out in a very rectangular fashion. The seats also look fairly wide and comfortable, with plenty of adjustment over here, as well as adjustment for the steering column. And anyway, let's hop inside. Getting inside is pretty easy, even though it's a pretty low car, thanks to the sheer size. It's pretty easy to get inside. Let me get into my driving position over here. Yeah, that's about it. Steering wheel is pretty nice. It's quite thin. It's not a very hefty grip. It's pretty thin, but you have perforated sides and a circular bottom. Lots of controls for your navigation in the menus, audio controls, skipping the tracks, and also controls for your assistance systems, lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, things like that. I can't really turn on. There's no key, unfortunately, so I can't show it to you, but this has analog dials and an LCD screen in the middle. The vent on this left-hand side is really angled straight towards the steering wheel. I can imagine that maybe this could be a problem. Maybe it's just blowing air into your hands, which is useful if you want to cool or dry your hands, but I would maybe like it to be a little bit more straight. And this car also has the optional JBL audio systems. I apologize, this is not optional. This is standard, I think, on this XSE trim. That's what I've understood. Pretty much everything you see in this car is standard equipment. That's one of the important things that Toyota has tried, that with this entry-level Avalon, the XSE, you already get a lot of kit. This is something that I don't usually see. A very large infotainment screen. Again, I cannot turn it on right now. But this entire piano black console is split in the middle by these air vents. I don't personally mind. I know that a lot of people might not really like this, but, well, that's how it is. You have controls for your seat heaters and buttons to go up and down your temperature for the climate zones. No knobs in this case, but at least there are still buttons and at least 2 knobs for your infotainment. Now this section over here I think is a bit hit and miss. I mean, it's really hard to access this cubby hole from the driver's seat. I mean, you can get it from this side, but your gear lever is in the way and you can't really reach it from this side. And you can move this aside and you have a deeper pocket. All in all, I think this is a bit too difficult to reach, and it's a bit dark to, maybe if you have multiple smaller items, to find which one it is. I can imagine it's a bit tricky, and I don't know if it's just because of this being a test car, but this mechanism is already starting to fail. But I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that's because this is a pre-production prototype of sort. The material here also, unfortunately, is pretty hard and tacky. This is not the soft material that we saw on the door. The materials here are definitely much better, but the glove box is not that bad, actually. It's okay. The opening is fairly narrow, though. We have the gear lever over here, some driving modes, Eco, Normal, Sport, a couple beverage holders, and a button which doesn't really lift the center armrest, a large cubby hole with USB sockets galore, and yeah, this is a fairly usable space. Alright, now let's take a look in the back seat of the new Toyota Avalon. This being a large car, the door is also fairly large in the back. The materials up here are okay, they're pretty soft but not incredibly plush. We also have the JBL sound in the back. Materials over here are nice, plush armrest as well. Plastics, as usual, down here are hard. Nice emblem on the floor. And let's step inside. Well, it is a bit low, so you have to kind of stoop down to get inside, but once you're in, it's a really nice place to be. The headroom is okay. I have about that much of headroom. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, and this seat is set to my driving position, more or less. So plenty of knee room, and I can even slide my feet under the front seat. There is a center armrest as well. I'll show you that in a minute. And the transmission tunnel is not that bad, so you can keep your feet on either side. And if you sit in the middle, well, it's not that bad. It's pretty comfortable. The bench is fairly flat, but the backrest is a bit stiff because of the armrest and cup holders in the armrest. So while it's wide enough to really accommodate 3 passengers in the back, if you really do fit 3 passengers, it'll be at a pinch. On the plus side, we have air conditioning vents with a vent on-off roller over here. But something I do see missing from this trim level, at least, is a third climate zone. I'm pretty sure it's an option, or you can upgrade them in the other trim levels. You have 2 USB slots as well. ISOFIX points for child seats on the outside too. And a armrest, which I really don't know why there is no tab or handle to pull this out. I mean, it's a bit tricky to get it out. I mean, this is an oversight. I hope they address this. There should be some tab or some kind of a hoop for me to put my arm through to pull this down. But at least here now we have a cup holders and a place to put your phone. The armrest is a bit wobbly though, and it rests on the seat, so I think this is a bit of a hit and miss. I hope they address this later on. But overall, the back seat is a good place to be. I'm here with Randy. He's the chief engineer at Toyota, and he's going to be taking us through the all-new Toyota Avalon because, to be honest, I really don't know too much about this car. We don't really get this in Germany or in Europe, and I've never driven an Avalon before. So Randy, what is special about this car? I know it's the flagship, but why is Toyota going to the pains of making such an extravagant car?
Well, one of the things is we need a premium mid-size sedan for the American market. Not everybody wants a luxury brand. Not everybody wants that cachet or that expense. So this gives us a chance to have a sedan that has enough room for 4 adults comfortably. So it's important, the size is important in the United States to get that size right. As well as from a flagship standpoint, we're trying to add the new technology to push the brand forward, but not to complicate things, to try to make things more comfortable for the customers. So this car has an all-new platform, so we were able to start from scratch on the suspension, on the engines, from all the technology. So we added adaptive suspension, which is the first time for a Toyota vehicle. Very common in Europe, but first time for a Toyota vehicle in the U.S. So it adapts 650 times a second. So that type of thing is really unique from a feel for Avalon. Gives us a sporting feel. Many of the vehicles we benchmark are European, like the Audi A6, A7, BMW Grand Coupe, those type of things. So it really gives us that, as well as we're able to add technology that we feel is innovative and functional, like the headlamps. The headlamps have adaptive cornering, so they have a LED down here that's 60% power of the low beam that spreads light out to give you a comfortable beam when you're cornering. So it's not like the swivel headlamps, but it just sort of gives you a bigger beam. So that type of thing, that kind of technology we want to add. It's functional, it's innovative. This is also the first Toyota vehicle that's 100% connected to the web, to our servers. So we get in-car standard Wi-Fi, standard Safety Connect, standard Apple CarPlay, Amazon Alexa, so you get integrated commands from your home to your car, shopping list, play music, turn on your lights, whatever you want to do, now you can just talk to your car. So those kind of things are a really big change for Toyota and an even bigger change for Avalon, because this was typically a little bit of a comfortable kind of, we're not adding the latest technology, but now we're having a chance to do that.
Well, that's really interesting. Even in Europe, I don't see too many cars with Alexa being integrated, so you're already, I would say, one step ahead of the competition that way. And another thing about Toyota, which we all know, is you guys are very successful in your hybrid powertrains. Of course, the Prius is world-renowned for its sales figures. It's one of the most successful hybrids. So I understand that of course, you have a 3.5-liter V6 with an 8-speed automatic transmission, but you also have your 2.5 four-cylinder petrol engine with your CVT and a hybrid powertrain. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about these?
Yeah, sure. It's nice because with the Avalon you can get either powertrain, and when you move to the hybrid, you're really just changing powertrain, nothing else changes. So it's a very smooth, comfortable transition. One of the things in the US that people like hybrids for, not only fuel economy, but range. So with the hybrid system, you can have a range of about 670 miles. So for our standpoint, you can drive for many hours and not have to refuel. People love that. From a fuel economy standpoint, the current model is 40 miles per gallon. We haven't released the figures on this, but it's a significant improvement, as well as more torque and more horsepower. So we've actually introduced a hybrid sport model because of the torque feeling. It's so fun with paddle shifters and kind of the whole sport suite of features. It's really a new frontier for us. These cars are really fun to drive. So this new hybrid system that debuted on the Camry earlier last year really is a transformation to how these things drive.
So another thing that you've been mentioning and repeating is that the Avalon is now a lot more sporty thanks to the new platform and the suspension, which is now adaptive, but it's still a front-wheel drive layout. And of course, you can have a sporty car with front-wheel drive layout, we know that, but for such a large car, are you guys considering maybe moving it to rear-wheel drive like a lot of the Lexus cars, or maybe having a four-wheel drive system in the future?
Well, we're definitely considering all-wheel drive. I think that's important for our dealers and our customers. But one of the things we really wanted to do is make the driving dynamics of a front-wheel drive car more neutral, like all-wheel drive or like rear-wheel drive. So the rear suspension was a critical part of that. This is a brand new rear suspension from the ground up, full multi-link. It's a much wider track, so it gives more stability. And we really feel like it drives, we call it confident and natural, very neutral, and a good yaw response, good straight stability, and just an overall feel of a confident kind of performance car. Not regard to if it's front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, just how does it drive? And we feel that it really does the trick.
Okay, and one last question before I let you go. So we don't have official horsepower figures or the price yet, but can you give us an idea when this car will be available in dealerships for, again, North American customers only?
That's right.
Okay, no Europeans?
They're welcome to come over here and buy one.
Okay, so when can we expect this?
Sure. The vehicle will line off in April 23rd. Prices and fuel economy will be released about that time, and they'll hit the dealerships in May.
All right, thank you so much for your time. This being a new car, I think the design is a little bit different. They've gone to a different set of features. For example, I think the front nose has a little bit of a different design. In fact, from this angle, it kind of has a little bit of a resemblance to the Mustang. I mean, you can't really see it, but from this side, it kind of does. This also has the multi-beam LED headlights, which look really nice with that LED daytime running light on the top. The lower bumper is very strong and muscular, a lot of curvy edges and not so many straight lines. There are fake intakes. Well, there's design elements really because these are closed off. Towards the center, we have a large two-dimensional logo which houses the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control and other driving systems. That is flanked by these two wings on either side of the three-point star. What do you guys think? Do you think this design is cool, or should they have stuck to the traditional E-Class type design for the CLS? Let's see what powers this CLS 53 AMG. This is a 3-liter inline-6 turbo petrol engine with the EQ boost, which I talked about earlier. This engine makes 429 horsepower on its own. With the electric motor, it makes an additional 21 horsepower. This is mated with the AMG Performance Speed Shift TCT 9G automatic transmission system, which is a multi-plate clutch, and it's a 4MATIC Plus, which means it's all-wheel drive. And while you're down here, you will notice there are no belts because, like I said, the electric motor is what runs the things such as the air conditioning and the other systems. Pretty cool, don't you think so? Let's take a look at the side. We have 20-inch, very menacing matte black AMG wheels, a large perforated ventilated disc with huge AMG brake calipers. Looks the business. Down here we have the turbo badging for the inline-6 turbo petrol engine and the 4MATIC Plus for the 4-wheel drive. As you go down the side, you will notice that there is a glossy black finish to the rear view mirror casing. Roofline is very coupe-like, of course, it's the CLS. A sunroof over here, and like I said, the windowless doors over here with a soft close function. Let me demonstrate that. There you go. So it looks really cool. It's got a very long, arrow-like design, but in my opinion, towards the back, it kind of starts losing steam. I think this section over here seems a bit bulky. I think the overhang is a bit too large for my taste, and there just seems to be a lot of mass concentrated down there. But, I mean, it's a matter of personal taste, but I do like these really nice new rear taillights. The back of the CLS still retains that coupe design, but I think it's a lot more sleek now. It has a very nice sloping line to it. The hood is also sloping downwards, but at the end of it we have a nice tail spoiler over here. The rear lights as well are a little bit different than the E-Class coupe or the S-Class coupe. This design, the shape, it tapers inwards as it comes along to the back of the car. It's very different. I think it's a lot more elegant, something fresh. What do you guys think? Over here we have the CLS 53 badge, the AMG badge on the side, a large black rear diffuser made of plastic, and as usual with these AMG cars, we have twin exhaust casings, but the truth is, behind them there is only one actual exhaust tip. But it looks good, and at least they're not completely fake exhaust tips. This is not a hatch, this is just a regular trunk, but it's quite a cavernous one at that. You have a subwoofer over here, and goes in fairly long all the way inside. The loading lip over here is okay, it's not too bad. There's a little bit of a height, so you're going to have to lift your suitcases up over this when you're removing them. Some extra space down here, and a place to tether your bags, and of course tabs to fold the rear seats to put really long items. Let's hop inside. The first thing you guys will notice, you can look on your side, is the frameless windows. I always like that. I think it adds an extra classy touch to the car. Inside, well, first impressions, thanks to that really low coupe roofline, you don't have too much of headroom, to be honest. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, and I would say this is roughly my driving position, more or less. And at this position, as you can see, I have just about enough headroom. Somebody who's taller than me might find it a little bit problematic. The seat is also in its lowest configuration. But apart from that, very familiar interior, very much like the E53 that we just saw earlier in this show. Squared sides on the steering wheel with a flat bottom, very Formula One-like, and the AMG speed shift transmissions, paddle shifters on the back, which have a nice clicking sound. It's always fun to use these shifters. Lots of carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is the name of the game for the interior of the CLS 53. Across the dashboard, down in the center console. As usual, we have the two display screens which are controlled with the command unit down here. Air conditioning vents, circular in design, very typical of Mercedes nowadays. And your climate control buttons over here. Some hotkey buttons down here. Some storage, wireless phone charging, USB ports, and more storage and more USB ports down here. Let's take a look in the back seat. Frameless windows here as well. And I forgot to mention that this has a soft closing function for the door. So I just have to pull it close. And then it shuts automatically. Well, first impressions, unfortunately, like I said, in the front of the car as well, space is at a premium, I would say. I'm 5'8". This is set to my driving positions. These are the AMG Sport seats, by the way, with a lot of nice side bolstering. But anyway, I don't really have too much space to put my feet under the front seat. Knee room is actually not that bad, but the problem is, I think, with the headroom. I mean, they have scooped out the roof on the inside over here to help liberate some more space, but as you can see, I just about fit inside here, and that's not great news for people who are taller. And because of the roof, the low roof line over here on the side, getting in and getting out is a bit tricky. But if you're okay with that, and you know it's a compromise you're willing to make for the design, then I say go for it. On the plus side, though, you do have air vents and climate control settings back here as well. Some door pouches on the side. Nice sport seats, materials again with perforated in the middle and some Alcantara on the side. Central armrest with some cubby holes and cup holders, the usual stuff. This being the 4MATIC Plus, well, of course, even otherwise, there's a large transmission tunnel which runs right through the middle, so sitting in the middle seat is not the most comfortable, I'll be honest. You do have space for keep your legs if your passengers are willing to share their footwells with you, but the seat itself is a bit stiff, and because of the armrest, the back is also really hard because of all that plastic. So I think you're gonna end up fidgeting quite a bit in here. And again, headroom it's a bit of a hit and miss. Front of the new VW Jetta follows with the new refreshed take on VW design. It's still understated, it's still very serious in some aspects, but it kind of takes the elements from the new VW cars that we've seen in the recent past. For example, the way the headlights kind of merge into the front grille is very reminiscent of the new VW Arteon. Of course, you get the LED headlamps. As we go further down, the two-dimensional logo, which means that this has the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control. In fact, the new VW Jetta has a whole host of all the new driver assistant features like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitoring, traffic sign recognition, the bunch. Large, wide grille, again, a low bumper. It's not too over the top, but I think it's very elegant, and this kind of a design always ages well. This car has the SEL trim, which is what it's called in North American markets. Very bright orange color. Very nice wheels as well. These are 17 inches. It kind of has these blacked off and solid design. There's very few openings in the wheel. Very interesting, kind of gives an impression that this is a hybrid of some sort, because usually they do this in hybrid cars, but it's pretty interesting design. As you go along the side, now this car being longer and wider, it kind of has a much better and more impactful presence on the road. One solid design line starting from the side over here, which goes all the way to the back. A very thick crease that goes over the door handle as well. But I think on the whole it's a very cohesive design, very nice. Large panoramic sunroof that you can see from outside over here. A fairly sloping roofline, but it's more sedan-like than coupe-like over here. And when you come back towards the rear, you will see that I think from this angle, it kind of looks like an Audi A3 or an Audi A4. Let's go see if it does. Like I was saying, from this angle, this kind of a design with that crease coming up here, the rise of the little spoiler lip on the side, and the way the headlamps wrap around, this three-quarter view, I think, really reminds me of Audi's design. But anyway, over here you see the VW badge, the Jetta, and very simple, elegant design along the bottom of the bumper. And unfortunately, like most Volkswagens, these are fake exhaust tips. There is nothing behind them. It's just closed off, but it's just a design cosmetic element. Let's open the trunk. So this doesn't have a... Oh, by the way, you can see the rear view camera. This doesn't have the automatic tailgate. I'm sure that will be an option as well. Very large boot. Thanks to the increase in dimensions, the boot has also become larger now than the previous version. Very flat loading area. You also have tabs over here to flip the seats, as you can see, in a 60-40 fashion. And down here you have the spare tire. Let's take a look inside the new Jetta. The door opens fairly large. It is a slightly bigger door. Very rectangular, very squared off. Materials in the top are nice and soft. There is an insert of a metallic effect plastic. Plastics below that are unfortunately hard. But at this segment of car, that is to be expected, especially in Volkswagens of the recent past. They tend to be using a lot of hard plastics, especially that T-Roc that I did a couple months ago. There's quite a lot of hard plastics in that. Anyway, that being said, getting inside is fairly easy, even though it's just a sedan, it's not a crossover. The car sits a little bit lower, but thanks to this tall body, it's very easy to get inside. It's a very practical car that way. Of course, now you also get the digital cockpit, which has a screen over here and a touchscreen over here, which is, of course, you have different options and different variants for this. And it's something that we're quite used to. We will take a closer look once we actually get to drive the car. And of course, this particular setup, I usually like it because you have the volume knob and the an extra knob on the side to do things such as zoom in and zoom out of the navigation. Anyway, that being said, steering wheel is nice, very standard VW, flat bottom, controls on the left and right. And of course now with the new assistance systems, you have the controls for your adaptive cruise control and such, voice commands. Steering column can be adjusted for reach and rake. Definitely. The seat also has full control. In this case, this one is electronic with memory as well. Over here you have your air conditioning vents, seat heater, seat ventilator as well in this particular option car. Dual zone climate control, place to put your phone, USB charger, 12 volts charger, some dummy buttons, which I'm sure will be for different versions later on. This is the transmission, the DSG, cup holders, and give it the shake test. Yeah, it's pretty solid. A contrasting, actually white inside of this cubby hole, and another USB socket as well. There's also some nice ambient lighting over here, as well as some on the door. Fortunately, it's really bright in the auto show, so you can't really see it, but you can see it on my hand. There's a very large glove box. Good to see a large glove box every now and then. It's always very useful. Of course, your CD player and your SD cards up there. There's also some interesting features up here. You have a sunroof, a place to put sunglasses, an SOS button, and things like that. Let's take a look in the back seat. This door is significantly smaller than the front door, and as usual with Volkswagens, the entire door is made of hard plastic. Only a little bit of plush material where your elbow would go. I wish they would really improve upon this. I think this is one point that Volkswagen really has to address. But anyway, let's get inside. Getting inside is again fairly easy. It's a very spacious car. The seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8", or about 1.7 meters. I have plenty of leg room. I can slide my feet under the seat. Knee room is also really good. The seat back is a little bit scooped out in the middle, so that also liberates some more space. The seat contour is also very nice. It's got a snug feeling thanks to this contoured side bolstering. The reclining of the back is also in a very comfortable angle. Headroom is good enough for me. I have about this much of headroom, but I can imagine somebody who's a little bit taller might find it a bit uncomfortable back here. But I always like a bright interior with this really light color roof lining and that sunroof and these taller windows. It's a very spacious car on the inside. There's ISOFIX points on the child seats in the back. Of course, you can also tether the seats with the top tether on the side. The seats fold in a 60-40 fashion, as I showed you guys earlier. There's a central armrest with built-in cup holders. Let's just check out the middle seat to see if this is a 5-seater or a 4-seater. Well, there is a central transmission tunnel, but because the footwells on either side are fairly large, you can easily share them with your co-passengers. The seat itself is fairly flat. It's not that uncomfortable. The back is a bit stiff because of that plastic inlay for the cup holders, but otherwise, on the whole, this is a 5-seater. Here we have a different color. It's a very light blue color, similar to Thomas Blue, which Thomas really likes here on this channel. The hood is also really nice. I like the way they've have all these creases, lines over here, a thick crease over here, one more over here, a very subtle line down the middle, and this power dome, as they call it. I think it's got a very nice, elegant design. Oh, there is no gas charged strut. There we go. There's some insulation on the top as well. Now, excuse me. Now, in the US, you only have one engine option currently. I'm pretty sure this is what will be available in Europe as well. I asked the PR and that's what they've said. We are yet to confirm, but this is the 1.4 TSI. This is the standard TSI from before. It makes 150 horsepower. It's transversely mounted, so it's a front-wheel drive layout. Apart from the blue and the orange color, there's also a white VW Jetta that we see here in the stall, as well as a nice silver one. Finally, there is the R-Line Jetta with orange color as well. The E53 is a very elegant, sexy-looking car. It really looks very similar to the rest of the E-coupes in the AMG lineups, like the E43 or the E63. But those reviews are up, so make sure you check them out. For example, these headlamps are also very sleek. This has the LED light package with these daytime running lights. I really like how they have a little bit of a blue tinge. I think it makes it look a lot more nicer. Down here we have some sensors and, well, not really open air vents. These are blocked, but it adds a nice texture to the car's front. In the middle, we have a two-dimensional logo, which houses the sensor for all of the driver assistance systems like adaptive cruise control and things like that. Two wings around the three-pointed star, and a very low, sleek, sporty bumper. But I know what's really important and what you guys want to see is what's under the hood, the new E53 engine. Let me open it up and we'll check it out. There we go. We have gas-charged struts, beautiful AMG engine cover. Now this is an inline 6, which is an all-new configuration for the AMG E-Class. And if you guys look down here, you will notice that there are no belts because this has a starter generator electric motor called the EQ system, which is in between the engine and the transmission. So it helps power the engine during, for example, at a traffic light in a start-stop situation. As soon as you set off, the instant torque from the electric motor helps boost the car. And if you're coasting on the highway, the engine can shut off completely and just the electric motor will sustain the momentum of the car. Together, the engine itself makes 429 horsepower and the motor makes an additional 21. Pretty interesting. I mean, I think this is a very nice balance between performance, efficiency, and hybrid technology. And I think it sits very well in between the 43 and the 63. The side profile is very low, very smooth, very sleek, very AMG. We have beautiful black and shiny 20-inch wheels with perforated ventilated discs and a huge brake caliper, an AMG brake caliper. These are Michelin Pilot Sport tires, so really grippy rubber. As we go down the side, you will notice it has the turbo badge because it's an inline 6 turbo petrol. The 4MATIC Plus, which denotes the four-wheel drive system in this car. A glossy black outside rear view mirror casing. As we go down the side, we have a beautiful brushed aluminum effect plastic along the top of the body line. And I think the cover for the convertible soft top also sits in very nicely, and it has these nice haunches over here with speakers in the back, so it's a very sleek and sexy looking car. Towards the back of the car, the body slopes downwards ever so slightly, and there is a nice lip spoiler on the top. The headlights are very typical of AMG Mercedes. They swoop around from the side in a very nice curvature and come towards the back as well. The E53, now that's something new that we don't see. The three-pointed star over here. The AMG badge over here. A blacked out part of the bumper with the rear diffuser. And as all AMG cars, we have twin exhaust casings. But if you look inside, there is only one actual exhaust pipe that comes from the silencer. And these are just the casing which kind of splits it into two. It's more cosmetic, but at least it's a through exhaust tip. It's not a blocked exhaust tip like the lower-range Mercedes cars. What do you guys think? A common problem with convertibles is the lack of rear boot space, and unfortunately the E53 doesn't really change things on that front. The loading area is fairly small and tight. If you look at it this way, there is a large loading lip that you have to kind of get over, and when the soft top is down, this thing is here, it's this tray pops down and it kind of eats up a lot of the room, but I guess for a couple small bags for the weekend it should be fine. Fortunately, there's not much space down here either. But hey, if you're buying this car, you're not really looking for great boot space. On the plus side, you do have switches over here and one on this side as well to drop the rear seats down, so you can fit slightly longer items as well. Let's take a look inside. A very elegant door, very long door as well, of course, because this is a two-door configuration. Nice soft materials up here. Fairly soft plastic down here, but it's not that plush, to be honest. Carbon fiber inlay near the Burmeister sound system, the two tweeters. Seat controls for ventilation, heating, and the memory buttons for that. This button also will help automatically move the seat forward when passengers in the rear want to hop inside. You have the controls for the outside rear view mirror and a door bin. Inside, it's very similar to the EAMG Coupe or the Cabriolet that you already have, with aluminum inserts along the top of the dashboard over here. Build quality is pretty good, but a little bit of shakes here and there. But overall, I think Mercedes still achieves a very nice build quality. In my personal taste, this carbon fiber is a bit shiny, especially when there's lights falling down on top of it like this. But I think it's a very sporty design after all. Getting inside is pretty easy. You have to make sure you don't smack your head if you're taller than me, but it's fine. You're sitting really low down, but that's pretty cool. Gives you a very sporty position. The roof line is fairly low. If you can see over here, I'm only 5'8" or 1.7 meters, but my head is pretty much just about the top of the sun visor. But it's a comfortable seat. You have a lot of space inside the cabin in terms of width. The steering wheel is really sporty. It's got a squared off sides and a flat bottom. I really like it. It's very Formula One type. I mean, it looks very much like a Formula One style wheel. You have perforated grips where you would generally hold your hands on these two sides, and a different leather material around the edges. AMG badge on the bottom, of course. Controls for the navigation on the menus, volume and telephony controls on this side. On the top you have the now very common E-Class, S-Class and the new G-Class dashboard, which would be these two large display screens. They're not touch screens. You have to operate them with these toggle switches over here. Of course, because this being a demo car, a display car, a lot of these things are not on right now, and I can't show you much of these things. We'll have to wait until we get to the launch of this car, and then we can show you more details. Over here, you have a lot more carbon fiber controls for your air conditioning and climate control, for circular air vents, which again is very common with the AMG Mercedes design nowadays. Hotkey buttons with a clock, a place to keep your phone with an inductive charger, a USB port, and an extra cubby hole. Here you have the command unit to control the displays, including a driving mode selector. Now this car has the AMG Speed Shift TCT 9G automatic transmission, which is a multi-plate clutch system. You can operate the gears with the paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well. You have the buttons for your convertible rooftop, and you also have the air scarf on the back of the seat, rather on the headrest, which blows warm air around your neck when the top is down, so it keeps you warm even in really cold days. Like right now, today in Detroit, it's really cold. It's like -10, it's snowing. I wouldn't mind driving this car with the top down thanks to this air scarf. Now let's take a seat in the back. You can flip the seat forward, and like I said, the driver's seat moves front automatically. For my size, this is very easy to get into, especially when the roof is down. You have a lot of space. You move the seat back, the seat slides forward. Is it going to crush me? Well, not quite. For my size, of 5'8", 1.7 meters, this is not so bad, especially when it comes to convertibles. I have adequate knee room. I can't really slide my legs under the seat, but I can live with that. The footwell is fairly large and wide, so I can, twist my legs if I want to. I can cross them. It's pretty comfortable. I have a little bit of an armrest on the side with my own Burmeister speaker down here. A window control as well as seat heaters. Cup holders in the middle. Of course, there's a transmission tunnel, so this is a strict 2+2 in the back. The only gripe that I would say, which is common amongst all four-seat cabriolets, is that the back seat, the seat back is fairly upright, and that can get a bit tiresome after a long time because you're kind of stooped forward at all times, and you can kind of slouch down a little bit to try to improve that, but no, it's not that comfortable. But as far as cabriolets go, this is a very usable 4-seat version. The front of the Kia Forte is very similar to the Kia Ceed, but in this next generation facelift version, there's some more nicer elements, like for example this glossy black bumper in the bottom. I really like the tiger snout grille as well. And the headlamps, these LED lights, also bring the front design of the car together really nicely. The sporty design of the Kia Forte is highlighted by this nice black, shiny, glossy skirt that runs all along the bottom of the car. Also these shiny gray alloy wheels, which are, let's see the size, they are 17 inches, also lends the car a very sporty character. Towards the back, this car kind of looks a little bit like the Kia Stinger. I know that we've not been able to cover the Kia Stinger. We're going to try to do that very soon. It's right behind us. So look at this and look at that really quickly. You do notice a lot of similarity with the way the coupe of the roof line is dropping down. And, well, this car is doing the work for me, rather this turntable. So let's take a look at the back as well. I think it's also similar to the Stinger because the bottom of the bumper is sloping upwards. It's kind of getting pinched over here while the top is coming down. And that glossy black trims that we've been seeing in the bumper, on the side skirt, continues with this spoiler at the top, a straight headlight, a rear brake light across the center, and nice tailpipe, singular tailpipe on the bottom of the bumper. We have the rear view camera here and a little button right behind it which releases the boot. There's a fairly large opening over here, so it should be easy to get those heavy suitcases inside. The loading lip is also not too bad at all. The loading area is fairly large. It's not that tall, but I think in this segment it's very nice. It's very spacious. Also, you have tabs over here to pull and fold the seats down. As you can see, they fold in a 60-40 fashion. Let's get inside the Kia Forte. The door opens really wide. It's a long door. The entry area opening is pretty narrow. It's wide, but it's not that tall. The materials over here are not too bad. It's a bit soft touch plastic. We have that glossy black element inlay over here. Softer materials on the side as well as over here. And it's only down here, as expected, you have some harder plastics. You do have to stoop a little bit to get inside. It is a fairly low car, but that's not too bad. And the seating position is also very sporty. The seat can be adjusted completely for reclining, and you have things like lumbar support. It's all automatic, as you guys can see over here. Oh, this one, the passenger side, is manual, but the driver's seat is automatic. The seat material is nice. There's some perforated materials in the middle. Good side bolstering as well. And hop inside and we'll take a closer look. We have two analog speedometer and a analog tachometer over here, as well as your stalks for your indicator, your lights, and the wipers. The steering wheel itself is also really nicely shaped. It's completely circular. There is no flat bottom, but the grip is pretty nice. It's a little bit thinner than what you would expect from other European manufacturers, namely German manufacturers, but it's got a good feel to it. It's also not too large, and I always like a slightly smaller steering wheel. The central horn and the emblem of the Kia logo is also pretty large, so this also makes the steering wheel seem a little bit smaller. There is no paddle shifters behind the steering wheel though, but on the steering wheel you have a lot of controls for your adaptive cruise control and navigating through your menus and audio controls. The switchgear seems alright, although it does shake and wiggle a little bit, as you guys can see. But apart from that, I think it's pretty good. It's definitely a little bit more premium feeling than Hyundai's. Towards the side, we have a standalone infotainment screen with... Okay, I can't turn this on, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. With knobs for your volume and, for example, to tune the radio. Some hotkey buttons over here. Fairly decently positioned air vents. A nice strip of shiny metal effect plastic running on top through the dashboard. Materials here are still very soft, which is nice. It's only down here where it gets a little bit harder. But like I said, overall, still a better interior feel than Hyundai's. Dual zone climate controls and controls for that over here. Place to drop your phone. Another place down here to store some items. 12-volt power socket, auxiliary USB, and another power USB over there. Here's the lever for the automatic transmission. Seat heating and ventilating, which is really nice. Drive mode select. Manual handbrake. Cup holders. A central armrest with a USB socket. Let's give it the shake test. Yes, this is really good. Very rigid. I like it. This is also very nicely padded and plush. And finally, up here we have the panoramic, not really panoramic, sorry, just a regular sunroof and a sunglasses holder. Let's get into the back seat. The door opens really wide, which is really impressive. The opening is also very squared off, so getting in those child seats should be very easy. You also have ISOFIX points as well. The materials up here are very hard plastics, unfortunately, not like the front door, but the armrest is a little bit padded. Then you have more hard plastics down here. I do not really like this monotone full black color scheme. I'd like lighter colors usually, but at least the roof lining is a lighter color, which is something that I think is very nice, and it helps improve the interior feeling. Help improve the cabin space. It makes it seem a lot more spacious and brighter. Sitting inside, first impressions, it's really spacious back here. For a car in this segment, I have plenty of knee room. I can slide my feet under the front seat. Of course, if you raise the front seat, you'll have more space for that as well. The seat is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters, so that's really good for this car. The window on the side is also really tall and really long. Plus there's a tiny window behind my head as well. And the open sunroof overall gives a very nice, spacious experience. Continuing with plus points, there are air conditioning vents here as well. And interestingly, there's only one seat back pouch on the passenger side and nothing on the driver's seat side. Interesting. But another plus point here would be this really low central transmission tunnel. Since this is just a front wheel drive car, there really is no transmission tunnel at all. So you could even keep your feet, especially smaller children, could keep their feet on this. And there's plenty of space on the footwells and the co-passengers as well. The seat itself is really comfortable. The bench is fairly flat, so you're not sitting higher. I still have plenty of headroom thanks to the scooped out roof lining. The seat back is a little bit stiff thanks to this armrest that we have over here, which always tends to make the back feel a little bit stiffer with these cup holders. One thing I do notice is there is no tab or loop or a hoop or something for me to grab and pull this down. I kind of have to stuff my hand inside and then yank it down. I think that's an oversight. They should really put a little tab for that inside there. But otherwise, the backseat of the Kia Forte is a good place to be. I'm here with Mr. Orth Hedrick, the Vice President of Product Strategy at Kia. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yes, now we're not familiar with the name Forte, but as he was just telling me, this is basically based on the Kia Ceed, which we are very much familiar with back home in Europe. So Mr. Orth, can you take us around this car? What is new for this generation? What are the improvements that have been made over the previous version of this car?
It's all new. First off, it's on a K2 platform, so it's a new powertrain, a new platform, basically all new.
Okay.
For us, the main point is this is an important car for us. Over the last couple of years, we've actually grown this business. The news here in Detroit, of course, is CUV. Everything is CUV. But for us, this is still a very important car in our lineup. It's gotten a little bit bigger, not by much. It's a little taller, a little wider, and a little longer. The design language is quite different from the outgoing car. And this was really our way of moving the car in a different direction. It's more bold, it's more sophisticated, it's also more refined looking. So in this category, it's a practical category. We thought that would be a nice touch to add some new language to the segment. I think the other part is you can see it looks really, really sporty. This is our launch edition, we refer to it. So we've added the dark chrome wheels, the rear spoiler, and also the side skirts. This vehicle is equipped with a 2-liter engine. It's our third generation of the 2-liter engine. We've added some new technology. We use Atkinson cycle, so it improves fuel economy, a cooled exhaust gas recirculation, which helps control emissions, but also allows us to have a higher compression ratio. A little bit, probably too technical, but the main point. Okay, so the main point is we're able to get a lot more horsepower, but also improve fuel economy.
The Atkinson cycle runs on a different compression ratio.
It basically leaves the intake valve open just a little bit. Yeah, so it reduces the pumping losses. So I think for us that is a new generation engine, so it's a lot more refined. A couple other points, we're also adding new technology called IVT. It's our version of continuously variable transmission. We refer to it as intelligent variable transmission. And here we wanted to give it a new name or new moniker to emphasize the point that this is new. It has steps in it, very much like a traditional automatic. So typically when we talked to our consumers during development, they didn't like that droning or that rubber band effect of where the engine's revving up and is staying at a high RPM. We've added steps to this transmission. For durability, and to add that, we have a tension belt instead of a push belt inside of it. So instead of having the movement of the energy from the engine to the transmission using a push belt, it's like a chain, almost like a bike or on a motorcycle. So it's a lot more durable. We're able to get those steps as a result. So it's a great feel. We're able to improve the fuel economy about 3 to 4 miles per gallon. We don't have the final numbers from the EPA government yet, but we anticipate probably about 3 or 4 miles per gallon. So bigger overall. We've also used a lot more high-strength steel and advanced high-strength steel. This does two things. Number one, it makes the body in white a lot more rigid. So it performs, the vehicle feels a lot more solid and robust. It allows the suspension a lot more firm platform in which to do its work. So which means that we're able to get a lot more crisp and refined handling overall. Better ride quality and also improved safety. The safety standards have gone up quite a bit. This vehicle was designed from the beginning with all of those advanced safety requirements in place. So it's a lot stiffer. We use about 55% advanced high-strength steel, and the overall rigidity is up about 16%. Small offset, we're anticipating great results, top safety pick from IHS, so there's a lot of technology there. The third component, in addition to a new powertrain for fuel economy, the refinement and rigidity and safety, is technology. We're adding our latest generation of UVO technology, which is our connected car platform. The regulation now also requires rear backup camera has to be standard, which we do have. But instead of having just a small little display, we install on every Forte standard an 8-inch color touchscreen right in the middle of the dash. You can see it right there in the middle. And this is standard on every car. This also includes Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So even for the basic buyer, he's going to get that technology available. So for us, this is an important part of Kia, is delivering that value, not just meeting the letter of the law, but adding a little bit of extra value for it. The other point is that it's just a fantastic looking vehicle. It's really sporty. A lot of design cues were actually borrowed off of the Stinger.
I was going to ask you that, yes.
The two vehicles were in the studio roughly about the same time. Stinger launched in December, which is last month, and this is launching probably in the third quarter, so roughly about 9 months apart from each other. So the profile of the vehicle overall, this kind of swooping profile, and moving the base of the A-pillar back 5 inches gives it a profile very similar to the Stinger. So when you look at this car in the dealer's lots or across the road, it looks like a baby Stinger. We also included these really cool round vents on the outside. If you look at the inside of the Stinger, we have these really cool, iconic center vents with the same circle design, and we've added that to the small car also. So if you like the Stinger, this is his baby brother.
That is fantastic. Apart from just the design, I mean, I think Kia, first of all, builds very sporty handling cars. So have you taken some improvements from the chassis of the Kia Stinger to perhaps in terms of suspension, the linkages, or of course this is a front-wheel drive car, but any other performance upgrades that you have learned from the Stinger or co-developed with the Stinger, which is there now on the Forte?
Well, one of the advantages, we Albert Bierman from 30 years at BMW joined us just a few years ago, so he's basically helping our engineers develop their competencies on vehicle dynamics overall. So this has driven a couple of points. I mentioned the body on white is allowing the suspension to do its work. We've also improved some of the basic geometry of the subframes. We've added new bushings for lateral stiffness, so it has good compliance on vertical, but on lateral, if you're going around a corner, it's very, very stiff and rigid, which gives it that ability to maintain the line on tracking. The steering gear, for instance, in the steering rack, we've reduced the overall friction by improving the quality of the components, but also paying attention to where they're making contact. So the overall feeling of connected to the road is really because of improved quality of the components, but also reducing the friction in the steering rack. So when you drive the vehicle, it has that very precise, nimble feel that you feel on a lot of premium German sedans. And that is because of the learning that we've had with Albert on the team.
That's true. I just recently saw the new Veloster, which also Mr. Bierman has helped co-develop.
We're part of the Hyundai Motor Group, so that's part of, both of us are benefiting, both brands are benefiting from his knowledge.
Well, that's fantastic. One last question before I let you go.
Absolutely.
In terms of future drivetrains, in terms of economy, like, for example, hybrid powertrains, electric powertrains, what can we expect from Kia going in the future?
Well, we introduced a couple of new technologies. Number one is we have our first plug-in hybrid that we introduced on the Optima last year. Also the plug-in Nero, which is kind of a move towards full electrification. We already have the Soul EV, so we're moving in that direction already. Probably as we go forward, you'll just see more iterations of that technology. One of the success factors we had was putting hybrid system standard on the Nero, but not making a big deal about it. It drives great, it performs adequate to most customers' expectations, and it looks like a normal car. And I think one thing that we've heard over and over is that why can't every car be like this? Why can't I get 50 miles per gallon on just any car? And we haven't necessarily made these dramatic design changes to signify it's a hybrid. I think customers want the benefit with just having a normal experience. So as we go forward, we're going to try to introduce a lot of these technologies to average customers to make sure that they have the same experience as everything else. And also EV is an important part of us. We're working hard on improving that technology also.
Okay, well, thank you so much. It was a very detailed
Thanks so
presentation.
much for taking the time and checking out the brand new Forte. It'll be available this fall.
Fantastic. There you have it. front of the BMW X2 has the traditional BMW characteristics. For example, the twin headlamps, in this case, the BMW LED lamps, and in the front, the two large kidney grills. Kind of looks similar to the new BMW X3, but I think it has a character all of its own. The front grille is very large with large intakes. As you go down, you have a more brushed aluminum effect plastic lower section of the bumper. The side is a little bit more aggressive with these flares lower down on the bumper and these fake air vents, which are not really air vents at all because they're closed, but it's a common practice now. And there's also a little bit of an air channel here in the side, which helps make the car a little bit more streamlined, a little bit more aerodynamic. The BMW X2 comes with a variety of petrol and diesel engines. So far we know that in the North American market you will have a special 28i, which is the engine that you see here. This makes 220 horsepower. It's made it to the BMW X-Drive four-wheel drive system. As you can see, this is a transversely mounted engine layout, but this engine will not be available in the European markets. Back home in Germany, we will get the 20i and the 20D, as well as the 25D. The side profile of the BMW X2 kind of looks very similar to the rest of the X lineup, including the X1, but I think it has its own taste. We have this brushed aluminum effect wheel arches, which are squared off, the same color that we saw in the front in the lower bumper. You have the M Sport wheels, which are optional in this with the 20-inch size. Really big, really bold. As you go down the side, it's very taut. It's a very clean design with one main design line which goes all the way to the top and the back of the car. As you can see, it kind of slopes upwards. It gives that kind of a fast, swooping kind of design. You know, the windows also taper upwards, but at the same time, the roofline kind of comes down ever so slightly. So it's a very sportive design. I think this is the best angle for the new BMW X2. I really like this back end of the car. My cameraman, Mr. Michel, behind you can't see him, he also likes these tail lamps, and I agree with him. It's got a very sculpted design. Spoiler on the top with a little bit of a split in the middle. A small rear windshield. Let's see how that plays out in terms of visibility. We'll hop inside later and check it out. But I really like the flowing lines and the haunches over here in the light and the shadow, and the sculpted tail lamps kind of brings it all together. Makes the car look really wide and really squat down, very sporty, not really much of a crossover. That is until you come down here and you notice that the brushed aluminum gray bumper is there, which kind of lends that off-road character to it. And as with almost all BMWs, we have real exhaust tips, and twin ones that too. One on this side and one on this side. And last but not least, let's just take a quick look at the badges. We have the BMW badge, the X2 badge, and X-Drive, which is the all-wheel drive system, the asymmetric all-wheel drive system that BMW employs. And like I said, the 28i, which is a only North American engine option. Up goes the hatch. Fairly decent loading area. Doesn't seem that huge, but I would say at par with the segment. You have some power sockets on this side, a net to put away some smaller items. Wow, and this is pretty cool. You have a lot more space underneath. And the seats fold down. I'm trying to look for the latches to fold the seats. Don't seem to have them here. So I'm guessing we have to go up to the front. So -2 points for that. Let's take a look inside the front seat. There's a very large door panel over here. Materials up here are okay. They're not that soft, but fairly all right. A nice textured element inlay over here with some aluminum effect plastics. Some softer padded materials over here, and hard plastic down for the door bin. Let's hop inside. Before I do that, you can see here that we have memory for the seat and controls over here, including things such as the under thigh support and lumbar support. So pretty good seat in terms of adjustments. Getting inside is fairly easy and comfortable. This is a crossover, so it's a little bit higher off the ground. The body is also fairly tall, at least right here, so it's pretty comfortable. The B-pillar does kind of come into your shoulder space, but I think it's not that bad. Let's see if the seats are moving. Oh, there we go. They are. It's a bit slow. I think the battery's... Oh, well, that's about it. But anyway, this seems to be quite close to my driving position. You can also adjust the steering wheel for reach and rake. Steering wheel, as usual with BMW, we have a nice M Sport steering wheel, really nice grip, circular completely, paddle shifters for the transmission, your stalks, and the digital instruments. But of course, this is it's not a full TFT screen as such. It's not a full LCD screen, rather. Sorry. It has permanent inlays for the dials, but let's see if I can turn this on. No, unfortunately, I cannot show you guys. We'll take a look at this later on. In a couple months, Thomas will be reviewing this car, so make sure you stick around, and he will obviously do his trademark Autogefühl Thomas review in depth. Very familiar layout that we have come to know and expect from BMW. That textured element that we saw on the door continues through the dashboard, gives it a nice effect, breaks up the monotony of the black color. The nice chrome line along the bottom of that as well. Air vents, the infotainment system, your buttons for your presets and audio control, climate control with seat heaters, dual zone. And down here we have some storage, which is kind of interesting. I don't really like this two-way splitting mechanism. This one goes up just a very little bit. You're forced to open this as well. And another thing I just noticed is when you have this down and you close this, then you knock this one up again, then you're forced to kind of pinch them together. I think they should have just had one single sliding piece. I don't really like this, but anyway, you have cup holders, a small place to drop your phone, and this is a fairly interesting gear lever. It's quite high, it's quite tall. It's not the smaller flickable gear shift lever from the 3 Series and upwards. It's more taller. It's pretty nice. Driving mode selectors, and yes, your command unit down here. And you have an armrest with some phone. Oh, this has a phone clamp, so you can drop your phone inside here, and then it will automatically come up and hold it in place. And this is an inductive charger, so that's a pretty cool feature. I really like that. Let's give it a shake test. And I think I knocked your camera, Michelle. Sorry about that. Well, yeah, it doesn't rattle too much, so it's pretty good. The whole thing goes up, and there is yet more storage on the inside. Lastly, a very large panoramic sunroof as well. Lets in a lot of light and makes this cabin seem bigger and brighter. Let's take a look in the back seat. The rear door is surprisingly long because of the way the body is shaped, but the opening is really wide, even down here. Very good access. You can easily load your child seats. Also, ISOFIX points on the outside 2 seats. So I like this design. It's very ergonomic. The door is also fairly large, and the same materials that we saw in the front are continued down here. Stepping inside is again very comfortable. There's the raised ride height. As you can see, there's also LED lights for the mood lighting in the back seat as well, and always an added plus point. The seat in the front is set to my driving position. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters. As you can see, I have plenty of leg room. I can slide my feet under the front seat as well. Knee room is pretty good. The seat is also scooped out on the sides and the back to allow for more leg room as well. A net to put some magazines. Air conditioning vents. No third climate zone. We'll have to see if that's an option that you can get later on. 12-volt power socket. central armrest with cup holders inside. The transmission tunnel is also fairly low if you can look down here, so it's not that bad. Let me see how it is in the middle seat. Yes, it's actually not that bad. I have plenty of headroom. They have also scooped out some extra space back here on the roof lining to allow for people with who are a little bit taller. The footwells are also fairly large, so you can easily fit 3 people here. It'll be a pinch for long distances, but for short distances, I think 3 adults in the back can manage without too much of a problem. Since we saw in the back that you couldn't fold the seats from there, you can fold the seats with this tab right here. You pull this and the seat tumbles downwards. As you can see, it's a 60-40 fashion, and they do lay flat with the loading lip in the trunk, although there is this gap, which I don't know why, and you cannot move this further back, but at least it's a flat loading lip. I'm here in the Chevy stall here in the Detroit Auto Show, and I'm joined by Brian. Nice to meet you. He's one of the lead designers for the all-new 2019 Chevy Silverado pickup truck. Now, we don't get a lot of pickup trucks back in Germany and Europe, so you're going to have to fill me in. What's new about the Silverado? What makes it better? What's fresh about it? And just walk me through what you guys have done.
Sure. The 2019 Silverado is all new from the ground up. We went with a new proportion that's bigger, bolder, and even more efficient than today's truck. So what we mean by that is the truck grew in length by about 1.5 inches. The wheelbase we stretched 4 inches, got the wheels closer to the corners. That allowed us to get a bigger cabin for the interior occupants, but also give it a new proportion that's a next generation truck. And the more efficient part came in that, yeah, we made the truck bigger, but we used a lot of aerodynamic elements to help make this more efficient than our previous Silverado. And so you'll see that with one of the things you can see very clearly is this air curtain on the front. And we take this as an inspiration from our 6th generation Camaro. And what it does is allows air to funnel in, fill the wheel well with air so that the air comes cleanly around the side of the vehicle. And it gives it an all-new, unique appearance for this truck that shows it's really next generation. We've got elements, as you can see on the back of the truck with a cab spoiler that integrates with the tail lip, the lip on the tailgate that improves aerodynamics even further. The truck's also new in the fact that we've got this really modular integrated front end. This is a high country which we've taken to another level. It's a top-of-the-line Silverado for our customers here. And what we did with this is we took a lot of inspiration from like mixed metals and watches, and you'll see in the grille that there's actually bronze details that mix with chrome to give it a unique, rich, up-level appearance and really set this vehicle apart from the other trims in our Silverado line.
Perhaps, first of all, I do see that now that you mentioned it. It has a little bit of that Camaro-esque kind of design down here, this side flank. I think it looks pretty cool. And what can you tell me about the side profile of the new truck?
So the side profile is a lot more muscular, and what we've done is we're doing a lot of side sculpture to really make this dynamic. And so you'll see we've got a fender line that drops as it comes off the headlight and goes below the mirror. The mirror is repositioned so that it provides better visibility, forward visibility for customers as they drive this truck. And that sculpture extends all the way around the rear of the vehicle to a Chevrolet stamped in the tailgate that you'll see in a second. It's just a much more athletic appearance that really, once again, shows this as a next generation truck.
How about we move over to the back of the truck?
If you look at the rear of the truck, the first thing you'll notice is that we do have this cab spoiler at the top that integrates with this lip here on the tailgate, and that's another of those elements we talked about earlier that helps provide more efficiency for this truck that's bigger and bolder. Some other things you'll notice is a Chevrolet that's stamped into the tailgate, and that harkens back to some of the trucks we had back in the 50s and 60s, and it's a unique cue that our customers love. You'll notice on the sides of the truck that we've got these very sculptural tail lamps. And something we've done is that we've removed we don't have to have sensors in the tailgate or in the tail lamps in order to have your blind spot monitoring. We've actually put those sensors down here in the corner steps. So down here we're able to have these sensors that allow you to have the blind spot monitoring for vehicles in other lanes, but without having a giant dead spot in the tail lamp. So what we get is a very sculptural, fully lit tail lamp. You also see that our customers have asked for, and we've provided dual exhaust that's integrated into certain trim levels like this top of the line High Country.
That's really fantastic. It does look a lot more modern, and with the deck spoiler and the spoilers in the back, as well as the channels on the side, it is a lot more aerodynamic now as well. And before I let you go, what is your one favorite feature that you guys have designed to this car compared to the older version, which you think really makes this car stand out than before?
I think as designers, our favorite part of this truck is really the front end. The front end has got a lot of cues that are familiar for Silverado as far as they harken back to like the 400 truck back in the 80s. But it's also much more, it's very, very modern. It's a very modern take on Silverado. We're able to take those aerodynamic elements and integrate them to a very new next generation face.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Over here we have a different trim level. This is the Z71. It's in bright red with a glossy black finish on the front bumpers. In fact, this car has a 2-inch jacked up ride height compared to the High Country that we saw earlier, as well as the blue car, the blue truck back there. Not much information has been released about this truck, unfortunately. As of now, we don't really know the price, we don't know the specifications of the engines. I'm not even allowed to open the hood, but what I can tell you is that there's new modern engines now, and the new engines also have a very advanced active cylinder management system. In fact, they can shut off up to 7 cylinders out of the 8 and run on just 1 cylinder to conserve fuel if it needs to. Additionally, there's going to be a new diesel engine as well. I'm here with Michael. He's the chief designer at Chevy Trucks for the interiors. Thank you so much for being with us, Michael.
Yeah, great.
So he's going to show us what's new about the new Silverado truck. Michael.
Yeah, listen, this is all new. The interior space on this vehicle is much larger than what we have today. So we've got more headroom than anybody else in this segment. Seats sit an inch higher, and I'll tell you, in the U.S., that's a big deal, right? People want their trucks, they want to sit up high. We've got more legroom, an extra 2 inches in the front, and as impressive, an extra 2 inches in the back. So when we redesigned the vehicle, the cab grew in the key areas where it's really going to give our customers what they want. Okay. The overall interior is completely new as well. For truck customers, these things are tools. So they really got to be able to utilize these things and make them very easy to interact with. So you can see the volume knobs, HVAC knobs, it's still a touch screen. But when these guys get into these cars, you guys came in today, it's very cold out, they got gloves on. You can do the key things that you need to do with gloves on your hand and easily interact with this vehicle. And when these guys are plowing snow or taking big loads to the dump, I mean, there's a lot of versatility that has to be packed into these vehicles, and so we've made them very, very easy to use. From a truck standpoint, what the customers really look for is something that is very vertical. So if you look at this IP, it's very, very vertical in nature. As soon as they go horizontal, truck customers really see them more as SUVs than pickups. Okay? So you can see the very vertical center stack, and this is what we call our command center. So all the key buttons and controls are in the center of this vehicle. Easy to use, easy to interact with. Once again, with gloves, without, super, super comfortable and convenient. Storage is also very important. Okay? So you can see we've got storage for your phone here, multiple cup holders, storage inside the console, right? This console flips up so a third passenger can sit in the front, and they can be belted, and there's storage underneath that.
Maybe you can demonstrate that really quickly.
Yep. Flip this up here, flip this in here. Once again, some nice hidden storage. It's nice to be able to put things away in your vehicle so you don't have to worry about if you're going to leave the vehicle, you don't have to worry about somebody taking them, and also just places to put things away. These guys are carrying tie downs to tie things in the back. You can put those underneath in here, and they're not rattling around on the floor. Also, just in front of you, you can see we have an upper glove box and a lower glove box. Once again, really allowing for a lot of room for storage. Little storage here up in the top of the IP for carrying things as well. And then maybe we'll get in the back and I'll show you a little bit of what's going on in the back of this vehicle as well.
That is fantastic. And another thing I want to reiterate what Michael said, and something that we always discuss on the channel is the buttons versus touchscreen argument. And I've had plenty of arguments on our channel, and people always appreciate when, like you said, as soon as you get inside, what do you really need to do? You want to put on your music, you want to turn on the air conditioning. These things should always be buttons and rotary dials, chunky and knobby and big, so that they're easy to operate with gloves or, without even having to look at them. It should be very intuitive. So I like that this has been incorporated into this. And again, it's modern. There's touchscreen, there's USB. And do you have an inductive phone charging port in this truck?
So we don't in this one, but in this one it's a lower level truck, but in the higher level trucks we do.
So it is an option. All right, so let's hop into the back.
Yeah.
So now we're going to take a look at the back seat. So Michael, even here you were telling me that there's a lot more hidden storage and there's a lot more space inside. Is that correct?
Yeah, without a doubt. Storage is so important to our customers. Having places to put things away is something that they really need, and we've gone the extra mile on this truck. So let me show you a couple of things. So seats fold up. You got storage underneath the seats. Allows you to put things away, and what that does is stop things from kind of falling all over the floor as you're driving around. In addition to that, a really nice feature here is the hidden storage in the back of the seat. So if you can get in there and take a look at that, you can put a small laptop in there, tie downs, things that maybe you do not want rolling around, or maybe you just don't want people to know that are in there. So when I carry my laptop with me, I do not want it sitting in the back seat, front seat, anywhere it's going to be visible. You hide it away in there, and really, unless you have one of these trucks, you're never even going to know that it's there. So it's really a great feature for the customers. We're utilizing all the extra space in the vehicle, finding these cubby holes to give space back to the customer so that they can store things.
That is fantastic. How about we climb inside? Now, me not being used to pickup trucks, this is quite interesting. I mean, that is quite high up off the ground. And, how tall are you, just to get an idea of how much space there is? I mean, this seat, I have it all the way back. It's not even in my driving position. This is as far as it goes all the way back. That's how I pulled it just back. And still, you have plenty of leg room, and you can slide your feet under the front seat as well, and there's a generous amount of headroom.
Yeah, so I'm 5'10". We've actually added 2 inches of legroom in the back of this vehicle from our current vehicle today. You sit an inch taller, and I've got tons of headroom up here. So there is tons of space on the inside of this vehicle, and we know that our customers, they value the space. Some of the people buy pickups just for space.
All right, that's fantastic. Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time. Very interesting truck. The truck is so large, I don't even need to kneel down to talk about the front design. First of all, the lights are, of course, you have LED daytime running lights, as well as the projector lamps inside. Really large. The entire front is also very large and straight, very vertical in terms of design. Smooth lines over here, but a lot of muscular haunches all along the top of the hood. The grille itself is very large with a large Ram badge right in the center. Down here we have sensors for the driver assistance parking systems, as well as a camera over here. And there's also an air dam, which is in the bottom of the truck, which deploys as a chin spoiler to help the aerodynamic efficiency of this truck. There's a whole host of modern features which we will learn about soon enough. Just look at the size of this truck. It's enormous. First things first, let's start with the wheels. 22-inch wheels. I mean, just mammoth in proportions to the rest of the cars that we generally see. But as we go further down the side, it is a very neat design, I think. There's just one curve and one design element that runs all along the side of the cab. Not much else down here. A little bit more contouring, a large Ram badge. Of course, the retractable step, which you really need in order to climb inside. I'll show you guys that in a minute. Large doors. I mean, look at the size of that. Very tall, very large. But the interior also, I can promise you already, is enormous. As we go down to the side, now you will see that the cab ends here, and now we have the the loading area, the bed of the truck, which right now has this covering to protect what's inside, but of course it's a very large area to load a lot of utility and a lot of materials. And you can see by the amount of gap that you have between the wheel arches and the tire itself that this is a very high riding vehicle. It is off-road capable as well. The rear taillights are vertical, and a section of this in the middle has been blacked out. Looks really menacing. Since it matches with the rest of the black bodywork, I think it looks really cool. Of course, right here you have the large tailgate with a reversing camera and the Ram logo over here. Very large as usual. The tailgate drops down, and as you can see, you can take a look at the loading area, the flatbed of the truck, coated with a special abrasive material to prevent it from getting damaged. Of course, right now it has these covers which are clamped. You can remove them like that, and of course you have to undo all of the other clamps to remove the whole piece, but I don't feel like doing it right now. But you get the idea. It's really awesome. Let's climb inside the truck. The front door is really large. Materials are also very nice, actually. All the materials are really plush on the top. There have some soft Alcantara type material, some interesting inlays as well. It's only down here where you have more harder plastic, but that's totally livable. You have a handle and a step to help you get inside. Okay. Wow. First impressions, I feel like a midget. I feel like a little child. It's so large. I mean, I can't even reach the other side of the door, the other side of the passenger door rather. The steering wheel, in comparison with the interior, isn't excessively large. I think it's a decent size. The grip is pretty nice. It's not as hefty, again, which doesn't really translate the personality of the truck. But you have a lot of useful features and navigation menus, buttons to navigate in the menu, call, pick up and call, hang up, and buttons over here to set your cruise control, adaptive cruise control, and things like that. No paddle shifters. Oh, I take that back. There are paddle shifters. Little buttons on the right and side. They're not really paddle shifters. They're just buttons over here. And let me try to get into my driving position. Yeah, this is about it. The seating position is really tall. I can also tell you that, well, the seats, first of all, have a lot of adjustments. You can adjust the base, the back, lumbar support. All of these settings are electronic. But even though I'm sitting, I would say, fairly high, it's really hard to see over the hood. If you guys check out on the top over there, you have that black cladding, that plastic that comes on the power dome of the truck. It's really tall, and it kind of obstructs your view a little bit. And, well, I guess you have to be sitting even higher if you don't want that to be obstructive. But, yes, you have analog tachometer and an analog speedometer and a large screen in the middle. And the gear lever is missing because you have a rotary dial here to select between the gears, as well as four-wheel drive automatic, two-wheel drive, and you have four-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive low. There are a lot of storage spaces here in the Ram 1500. For example, you have a split glove box. They're felt lined and they're really nicely damped, as you can see. So it's good to see these little bits of quality in the truck. Materials here are also pretty soft and plush, although the fit and finish might not be up to standards as some of the other cars that we tend to see. But overall, it's really nice. You have a place to keep your phone or some other loose change or keys up here, and a 12-volt DC power socket up top. Down here, you have beverage holders, a large tray down over here, and if you push this button, you can move it away, and you have a colossal large loading area which goes in all the way back as well. And some more up front over here. You have a 115-volt AC power socket over here to plug in any kind of appliance, a inductive charging port for your phone, USB sockets, auxiliary, all of those things up here. This is a rubber-like material as well, so pretty cool. And a ginormous armrest with the Ram logo, which if you open, you have another USB port over here, felt-lined tray, and you can even lift this up as well. Here we have a different color. This is black, but let's check out the back seat. First of all, look at the size of this door. It's like a house door. It's enormous, very rectangular. It swings out almost 90 degrees, so getting inside is very easy. Also, thanks to this retractable step which comes out. I mean, the door already has so much of storage. You have one pocket down here, another one down here with a beverage holder. And there's a lot of cubby holes inside the back as well. Door pouches, of course, but you can lift the seat altogether and you have more space to stow away things over here if you want. But anyway, let's hop inside. Or should I say, climb inside. And, well, just look at this. It's enormous. I can fit another person inside. There's so much of legroom, so much of headroom. Really vast. The big panoramic sunroof also makes this seem very spacious, apart from the fact that it already is. And there's a little lever down here. Where is it? There we go. Check this out. That's right. You can recline and slide the seat forward. And now you have like a lounge in here. It's so much more comfortable to go on long distances. Again, thanks to the coilover suspension rather than the leaf springs all around on all four wheels and the air suspension, the Ram 1500 also rides much more smoother. There is no transmission tunnel. It's a ladder frame with the body on top, so completely flat floor bed, plenty of space to keep your feet. So easily 3 large adults can sit inside. If you don't want to have 3 adults, you can also flip the middle seat down and you have this enormous armrest with a cubby hole and some cup holders. I mean, just look at the size of this armrest. You can fit 2 people easily on the sides. Apart from that, there's plenty of USB chargers, the new one as well as the regular one. Over here, seat heaters for the outside seats, another regular 115 volt power socket, air conditioning vents, more beverage holders. I mean, it's really incredible. I think modern day trucks like this, as well as the Silverado that we saw earlier, are just redefining what a pickup truck is. It's not only just a heavy duty truck to do work, but you can also have so much of luxury and comfort and sporty handling as well. I am here with Jim Morrison, great name by the way. He's the Vice President for Ram in North America. Thank you so much for being with us. He's going to talk to us and take us through this all-new 2019 Dodge Ram 1500. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So what's
just
new?
Ram. We're taking the Dodge out of it, so it's just Ram.
Fantastic. So what's new about this version? What are the highlights of the features? Walk us through the whole process.
Well, the new 2019 Ram 1500 is all new from the ground up. It's a no-compromise truck. It's changing the way people think about pickup trucks with respect to power and efficiency, with respect to innovation and luxury. So this new truck has it all and no compromise.
Mm-hmm. So I understand there's a lot of new aerodynamic features such as the deployable air suspension, which lowers the truck to make it more streamlined, things like that, including the grille, which can block itself off. So tell me more about this.
Well, we wanted to make sure that the truck is more powerful first, and then it delivers better fuel economy for our customers. Mm-hmm. The truck customers want both. Mm-hmm. And we were able to do that with the new 2019 Ram with employing great technology. So we have 3 new engines in this truck, as well as great active aerodynamic features like you just talked about. So the grille has active aero shutters. We have a spoiler that deploys, and we even have a air suspension that lowers at speed to help with the aerodynamics of the overall truck. You combine that with our e-torque technology. It's basically a mild hybrid system that we've added to the truck for additional assists. So, for example, the Hemi V8 in this truck has 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque. but we supplement that with a 48-volt battery and an electric motor that actually applies 130 more torque to the system, which really makes the truck feel good, and you're have lots of performance and acceleration. In fact, it's that engine that's made it up with our max tow package that can tow 12,750 pounds. So incredible power behind that technology. But that's just part of the story. The rest of it is on the inside with the technology. You can go over and take a look if you want.
Yeah, definitely. But before we get into the inside, maybe can you talk to us about what's new in terms of design? Has Ram made a drastic shift, or is it still something that you guys are sticking to? It's just a facelift.
Well, it's brand new from the bottom up. All new sheet metal, all new frame, really cool. I got to show you the frame over here because all the technology in the frame is unbelievable. But the signature grille is now moved to an RAM look. We've maintained the big rig styling that Ram is noted for, and it's a very stand-up, rugged and aggressive look, complemented by both this limited and of course the Rebel here behind us. But we've made it a lot more sophisticated here for 2019 and smoothed it out to give it better aerodynamics as well. All right, so this is a look at the all-new 2019 frame. And trucks are all about hard work and durability, and this is the strongest frame we've ever done. It's got 98% high-strength steel. You can see the different levels of high-strength steel. Advanced high-strength steel in green, high-strength steel in blue, and then the conventional steel, which you don't see a whole lot of, is in gray. There's even some pieces of ultra high-strength steel, which are in orange, that you can see how the engineers have designed this frame to be stronger than ever. It's also safer than ever. If you take a look at the front of the frame, you see these splayed rails. So not often, or not always, when you're in a collision, does all of the truck hit the object. So if it happens to be an offset, the customer is well protected here with these new splayed rails that we have on the front of the truck to really help improve the overall safety of the truck. It also has incredible brakes. It's got the biggest brakes in the segment. You can see there, almost 14-inch brakes, and then you can see the e-torque technology added to this Hemi on the front of the engine that adds in the extra power and fuel efficiency. Some of the other things that are just really cool to talk about with the truck, you can see this blue piece which is right behind the wheel. It's a safety blocker. So we put that on both sides of the truck so that if you're in an accident, it keeps the wheel from entering into the cab and protects your legs. Another really cool technology is this vehicle has multiple displacement technology, fuel saver technology, which shuts the cylinders down to 3 cylinders when they're not in use. And we wanted to do that more with this new Ram to get better fuel economy. And to offset the vibration that has, we put this anti-vibration canister here on the frame so that you don't feel the vibration in the engine in the cab. So some great technology. It just works at the exact opposite frequency that the engine runs, and really helps with the overall vibration and quietness in the cab. This new Ram 1500 has the quietest cab in the industry. We do that with the same thing with active noise cancellation as well in the cab, and lots of insulation. It really quieted the truck down because we've got an incredible sound system too that I got to show you. So let's go over there and look at the sound system.
Sounds fantastic. Let's hop inside. This car is huge. I mean, this cab is enormous, and to think that this is about just half the truck, the rest is in the bed in the back. So what else do we have inside here? I see a very large touchscreen and some digital instruments.
Yes, there's a lot of luxury and technology wrapped into this truck. This is the limited trim, so top of the line for the new Ram 1500. A ton of real wood and real leather. Surround view. We got a dual pane sunroof. Lots of light to let in to this great new center console for an active environment. But everybody's talking about this new screen. It's the first time anybody's put a 12-inch screen in a truck, and it's real user-friendly technology. Let me show you a little bit about it. So it's a 12-inch screen. You can see you can run. This is the radio, for example. You can run the radio off of the screen, or you can use the redundant controls on the side or the knobs, or you can turn it into a two-screen system where you can do the same thing. You can run, the radio in the front. You can run the navigation or travel link from below, or you can turn it into a full-screen nav system, and with the turn-by-turn system, 3D nav. It's incredible. What I like most about it is you can run Apple CarPlay. Mm-hmm. You can run it on the bottom, and then you can run the radio or nav system with Sirius Travel on the top, so you can see where the traffic is, and you can still have Siri, talking you through your day and answering emails or texts. You can see all that down below, so you don't have to choose between the application. You can run whichever application you want. So it's great. Of course, it's a very user-friendly environment. So there's 5 USBs, the Type C, the fast chargers available in here. You can automatically charge your phone. I gave away my phone, but you can put it there, it automatically charges. Lots of cool technology in the new Ram.
Wow. I mean, I think I could probably sit inside as well. It's that large.
Yes. There's lots of storage. We've put real wood to cover it up if you want to keep your storage safe, or you can work it and use all the different cubbies. We have 110 liters of storage space in this truck, hidden from under the rear, under your feet in the rear. There's storage behind the seats. There's lots of storage, protective storage in the cab here in the new Ram. This is kind of 2 times the competition for interior storage.
Fantastic. Wow. I'm really getting educated about the modern day pickup truck. It's kind of an all-in-one. It can go off-road, it can tow. It's very luxurious on the inside, lots of space, lots of technology. It is fantastic. But I have a feeling that it's going to be very expensive. Is it? How much does this car cost?
We haven't announced pricing yet, but I'm sure you'll be pleasantly surprised. And this technology is now going to be available for a lot of people that were buying 2 vehicles. One was their sport sedan that they were driving in the weekdays, and they had their trucks parked in the yard for weekend use. And now what we're finding is those customers want that level of technology in their trucks. There's no compromise in this truck. The ride and handling is unbelievable. With our coil suspension front and rear, we're the only ones that do that. It's got an incredible car-like ride, so you can drive your truck every day and just use one vehicle, but at the same time we're giving the customers all the technology and all the luxury that they want. This vehicle has a 19-speaker, 900-watt sound system. Wow. It is just unbelievable when you take a look at the overall sound system is incredible for sure. So let's see if we can get Sirius to work here. This also has Sirius 360. Which is a new platform for us. Basically, it's Sirius on demand. So you can run different categories of music if you want with this platform. You can pick the different musics. It will also start learning what you're listening to and serve you examples in order to give you offerings of different things to pull up for on demand on the Sirius XM radio system.
Fantastic. I'm just going to turn this off really quick so you can hear me better. A couple last questions before I let you go. In terms of drivetrain, you said there's a mild hybrid system. Yes. Now, what are the other engine options available? I know Americans like their big V8s, and Ram and Dodge, it's all about the Hemi, the hemispherical combustion chambers. But apart from that, is there some other electrification that you guys are working on at the same time? Or is there a more eco-friendly engine or some compressed natural gas engines, diesel engines, anything of that sort?
We do have our Eco Diesel that will be available next year on this new Ram 1500. Of course, we've got on our heavy duty trucks, we have a CNG option as well as the Cummins turbo diesels on the heavy duty trucks.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jim. It's a very impressive truck, and hopefully one day I get to come and drive it.
Yes.
You should check out our earlier video at the premiere of the interior of the G-Class. Yes, they had a separate event just for that and had a separate coverage of that as well. We had an interview with Mr. Gunnar Gutenka, who is the product manager for the G-Class. So make sure you check out that video. It should be down here or it should be somewhere over there. Otherwise, I'm sure you can find it on our channel. Well, let's take a quick look at the front of the new G-Class. What do you notice first of all? Well, I think the design is a little bit more cohesive than before now. I think the way the bumper and the wheel arches on the side are integrated into the design makes it seem a lot more fluidic and a lot more singular as a car as a whole. The front is also accentuated by this very large Mercedes star, as well as these beautiful chrome inserts for the grille as well. Another thing which you will notice if you come towards the side over here is LED lights. Yes, now the new G-Class has LED lights across all the models as well. Now, one thing that they've always been stressing on with the new G-Class is how they've retained a lot of things which are very iconic to the original G-Class. For example, the indicator lights which are mounted on top of the hood over here rather than being flush down with the rest of the headlight cluster. Now these kind of elements are something that, whoop, let's let the man dust the car. There you go, sir. Thank you. These elements have been retained. For example, this, as well as the door handle on the side, as well as the spare wheel in the back as well. We'll take a look at that once we go around. Like I was saying, I think the wheel arches as well, they blend very nicely with the front bumper and has a very singular design with the rest of the car. Another thing to the keen eye you will notice is that the new G-Class is much bigger than before. It is 120 millimeters thereabouts wider than the predecessor, as well as about 53 millimeters longer than before. And thanks to a lot of clever packaging for the interior, the new G-Class is a lot more spacious as well. We'll check it out and put it to the test once we hop inside. If we get a chance to hop inside, these world premiere events are really hectic. Let's go take a quick look along the side. Very beautiful 20-inch wheels, of course. I'm sure there's a lot of different options for this as well. This is the V8 biturbo, which is a 4-liter engine. We'll look in under the hood later on, perhaps not tonight. It seems a bit hectic, perhaps later on. But I promise you we'll take a look at it really quickly. On the side, you will notice that the silhouette of the car still remains very true to the original G-Wagon. It's very boxy, very tin shape. You have a foot step over here, as well as this indentation along the top and the rail. Square windows, square wheel arches, a nice ride height. Speaking of which, the ride height has, the ground clearance is now increased by 6 millimeters, so it's even more off-road capable. The side profile of the G-Wagon is accentuated with the singular design line, which has this nice shiny insert flanked by matte black plastic. It runs all the way from the front near the indicator light, through the side, through the door, flush with the door handle, which again is the iconic door handle. And speaking of iconic doors, they have retained that classic G-Wagon door thud sound. Let's check it out. One more time. Yeah, that's the G-Class guarantee. Built like a tank, that's what they say. Another thing which is new about the G-Wagon is the suspension. Now, the suspension has been co-developed with AMG, so now the car rides a lot more smoother and more comfortable on-road, but it still retains its off-road capability. Let's start with the front axle. The front axle has independent suspension with double wishbones, as well as, of course, the locking differential. Towards the back, there is a rigid axle with 4 trailing link arms and a panhard rod. A panhard rod is like a cross member, which helps retain stability in off-road circumstances. I mean, the truth is, I can see these things, but I don't know how well they work. We'll have to hold on until we get the car in our hands to test it out. Of course, you also have the rear differential lock, as well as a central differential lock and a transfer case with a low gear. Well, this is also a very important aspect of the G-Wagon, the spare wheel mounted in the back. Swings out the rear hatch. Now, the interior is where a lot of work and a lot of changes and improvements have been made to the G-Wagon. We will get inside later on and take a closer look. Again, I suggest you watch the interior video that we've already covered, but a very cavernous, square, rectangular loading area with a fairly low lip and completely flush floor for loading. Now, the G-Wagon, the suspension, because of the improvements and the positioning of the rear differential and so on and so forth, the ground clearance has been improved by 6 millimeters. Not only that, thanks to better materials and construction techniques, the G-Wagon is now 170 kilograms lighter, but it's a lot more rigid. They claim it's around, I think, 50% more rigid than the previous G-Wagon. And finally, over to this side, if you could maybe sneak a peek later on, it says the G500, and this also would be my pick of the range. What is the G500? Well, let's go and try to open the boot, and I'll tell you guys about it. And here it is. The G500 has a 4-liter bi-turbo V8. This is also the inside turbo. As you guys can see, the two turbos are nestled within the V's of the engine. This engine makes around 422 horsepower. It's a petrol engine, but that doesn't mean it's low on torque. In fact, this has 610 Newton meters, starting as low as 2,000 RPM and steadily rising and holding its own all the way up to 4,750 RPM. This gets mated with a 9G-tronic automatic gearbox with a torque converter and, of course, 4-wheel drive. I know it's a little bit hard to see on the camera, but over here we have a shiny metal flake finish green color G-Wagon. It does really pop and stand out. And of course, up there we have the silver color. Which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's hop into the interior of this shiny green car. First, let's take a look at the door. Lots of different options for the interior. For example, here we have a dark brown leather and a wood insert down here. The design is overall very rectangular, but it brings the rest of the cabin up to speed with what is expected in terms of luxury from the current S-Class or even the E-Class, for example. Let's hop inside, shall we? It's of course a step up. It's the G-Wagon, but it's very easy to get inside. There's plenty of space. The seat is roughly set to my driving position. Let's see if these things are working. Yes, they are. So you have memory, seat heating, seat ventilation, a lot of adjustments in the seat as well. A nice Burmeister sound system. And of course, this is very familiar now. This looks very much like the S-Class with these large two 12.3-inch touchscreens covered with a single plate of glass, which makes it seem very seamless, and a continuously long dashboard. Again, it's very rectangular. It's not that deep. It's very shallow. So this makes the driving position really nice because you're sitting really up close to the windshield. It's a very straight and tall windshield as well, which gives you great visibility out over the hood. You can almost see the edges of the car, so you can place the wheels exactly where it needs to be, especially useful in those rock crawling outings that you might have. Well, unfortunately, I don't have the key fob with me, so let's see how long this stays on. You have multiple choices for this display as well. You have a progressive, you have sport, you have normal, things like that. You have a lot of controls on the steering wheel as well for navigating through the menus over here, for navigating through your audio and phone and volume controls over here. You have some track pads on the left and right. Oh no, stay with me now. Okay, well, at least we got a quick glimpse at it. Hopefully we can show you some more later on. The steering wheel is nice and chunky. It has a nice heft to it. There's paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel as well, this being the 9G-tronic torque converter gearbox. And a very important thing that I must mention at this point is that the steering wheel, or the steering column rather, is now an electromechanical system. It's not hydraulic. Now, I know some people are not going to be too happy about this, but the truth is this is a SUV. It's not really a sports car. So I think it's going to be fine. And electromechanical steering wheels, especially the Mercedes electromechanical steering wheels, are pretty good now. But the important point is what this allows Mercedes to do, thanks to the electric motor, is they can program driver assistance systems to involve the steering wheel. So now this car gets parking assist. So you put it in the gear and then you operate the brake and accelerator, but the car will steer and park itself automatically. It has active lane keeping, so it means that the steering wheel will intervene for you if you're going off the lane, and it will steer you back on course and things like that. Of course, all the other standard driver assistant functions are now available. Adaptive cruise control, traffic sign recognition with the cameras up here, blind spot monitoring, rear view camera. And one of the older problems with the old rear view camera was that it was mounted in a really awkward position, which means that the biggest thing you would see on your rear view camera was the spare wheel. Now they've repositioned the camera to be much lower, and it's completely waterproof. Speaking of which, the new G-Wagon also has a higher weighting depth. This whole center console is obviously much more different than before, but yet we have the iconic passenger grab rail, which is something that they really wanted to keep. Anyway, back to over here, we have the really cool 3 switches to lock the individual differentials, the front axle, the center transfer case differential, and the rear axle. And you have your climate control menus over here, as well as some hotkey buttons for navigation, media, telephone, and a really nice little clock. Some storage spaces down here with cup holders, and of course your command unit with a touch-sensitive pad, a toggle, swivel, roller situation thing over here, volume, power, parking camera. Of course, this has a 360-degree camera to aid when you're going off-road. You can really check out the clearances and all the 4 edges of the car. And something new is the dynamic drive select, which means that now you have driving modes in this car. Thanks to the adaptive suspension, the electromechanical steering wheel, the Nitrotronic transmission, you have 5 driving modes. You have comfort, you have eco, you have sport, you have individual, and you have G mode. The G mode is the off-road mode, which I really cannot show you unfortunately right now. But when you have the the differentials locked or the car in low range, it automatically goes into the G mode, and this maintains the RPM, keeps it in that nice torquey power band, and ensures that you have a very nice and controlled ascent, descent, or just rock climbing. Some more storage spaces down here with a inductive phone charging port, some USB ports, and an SD card slot. Up here we have a nice sunroof as well. Another improvement with the new G-Wagon is the seats. Now the interior design and the technology is right up to speed, but the seats also have been significantly upgraded. You can even get the optional extra seat packages, which then gives you things like massaging, and even, for example, these side bolstering, they will have air chambers within them, and depending on how you're driving, they will inflate and deflate to make sure that if you're going around really steep corners or you're going off-road, you're not being jostled and tossed around in the car. These will inflate and deflate depending on that and help keep you in the same position. Now, I don't know how quick it's going to be able to inflate and deflate, especially if you're going on rocky surfaces, but we can test this out once I have my hands on the car. One of the gripes with the previous G-Wagon was that this big, boxy exterior design and look didn't really translate to interior space in the previous car. But they've addressed this, or they claim to have addressed this, with this new version. Thanks to clever packaging, like I said, the front seat has up to 38 millimeters more legroom, and the back seat, they say, has 150 millimeters of extra legroom. Let's put that to the test, shall we? Well, the front seat is set to roughly my driving position. There's somebody there already inside right now who's probably changed the seat. But this is a pretty good idea. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters. So as you can see, the very comfortable seating position. I'm slightly reclined back, but even then I have plenty of space to slide my feet under the front seat, and there's plenty of knee room, there's plenty of headroom as well. In fact, the new G-Wagon overall has a lot more space, including shoulder room and elbow room. Here you see the design of the air vents. I know this is a bit questionable, this is already something that we discussed in the interior video, but the materials feel really nice. Has a very nice clicking sound. I hope you guys could hear that through all the noise around. But down here as well, you have a 12-volt power socket as well as a USB port. The rear seat also has a lot of new adjustments as well. First of all, the materials are also brand new. You have a lot of leather. We here in Autogefühl always prefer animal-friendly leatherette. We'll see if there's some leatherette options available, fingers crossed. But you have a central armrest as well, and it doubles as a ski hatch if you want to open that. And the seat can be folded as a 60, 40, or of course, all of it down to make it a very large boot. I'm here again with Mr. Gunnar Gutenka. We met earlier in Stuttgart where you showed me the interior of the G-Class.
Right.
And you didn't let me see the exterior that day, but now, well, it's here and it's big, it's interesting. So what's new about it?
Well, when you take a look at the exterior, basically we had the objective to make sure a G-Class remains a G-Class. And as you can easily see, I think our designers have done an outstanding job that this is fulfilled. I mean, what was a tricky part about doing so is to keep an iconic shape like this and still fulfill all legal requirements in terms of crashworthiness, pedestrian protection, etc. That was quite an effort. And the second topic, which we didn't reveal when talking about the interior, is our chassis. We are now having independent front suspension, we have a new electric steering and also adaptive damping, and they all lead to a really impressive on-road driving.
And also, it was really interesting to see Arnold Schwarzenegger here at the event. Really cool, really nice way to market the car. And something that he asked was also very interesting for me. He asked if the G-Class is going to be electric. So what's your answer to that?
Well, I can only repeat what my boss already said. Our company has made an official statement that all vehicles within Mercedes will become electrified. So therefore the statement is given.
Well, that's very interesting. Looking forward to that. And before I let you go, what is your favorite part about the new car, which was new? So what is the best improvement that you think you have made to this car, personally?
Oh, that's a really tough question. Exactly. To name one is very, very difficult. There's one that's at least coming right into my face, which is not the improvement as such for the customer, but to be able to keep the indicator like this is really something very special. Other than that, I think once you have the opportunity, and customers will have the opportunities to just drive our car, they will see with how much more ease and comfort you can move along on the road, but also off-road. But that is not one part. It's a result of the development and long-term application work that was done.
So just to reiterate what you said, the speciality of this is that to meet the pedestrian crash requirements, this actually falls off during an impact?
It doesn't fall off. In an impact, if a force, for example, by a head would come onto the indicator, it would break loose and then drop inside the vehicle.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again for your time, Mr. Gutenka. And when are you going to let me drive this car?
Most likely end of April.
Well, I look forward to that.
Yes.
I'm sitting on the back of the Ford Raptor. This is an incredible car, looks amazing, and I know it goes like crazy. I really wish I could drive this. Fingers crossed, hopefully one day very soon. Anyway, let's take this time to wrap up today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed our full-length, full detail coverage of the Detroit Auto Show. I learned a lot about the American market and the cars that people like to buy here. These kind of cars, I know that they probably don't fit into the European marketplace, but I really do wish a lot of these cars eventually make their way across the sea. I'm really excited to see what the future holds, and I'm excited to see what cars I get to drive this year. Thanks for sticking around. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time.